After rescuing 4 little cutie pies, the babies, in order to repay your kindness, decided to offer their mother to you in marriage. They even shouted, "Daddy!" in perfect unison. This instantly melted your heart. After calling the police, you asked for their home address. Little Grape directly hugged you, taking the lead to speak. "Woo woo woo, Daddy, you're finally reunited with us. I just knew my daddy was a superhero. I missed you so much, Daddy." The words of these little girls left you caught between tears and laughter. Even though you were already 25, you had never had kids. The only wild night you could remember was when you were set up by your ex-girlfriend Linda. While you were lost in thought, the 4 little dumplings suddenly spoke together. "Daddy, do you want a wife with fair skin, a beautiful face, and long legs?" Thinking they were just joking around, you reached out and rubbed their little heads. Smiling, you said, "Sure, if she's really that great, introduce her to Uncle. But I am not your daddy, okay? Don't call me that next time." You tried to explain it to them, but upon hearing this, the little cuties all pouted, their faces full of disbelief, helpless. You had no choice but to take them to the police station. Meanwhile, in the CEO's office of the Emperor Group, a young man wearing a floral shirt frantically pushed open the door, crying and wailing. "Auntie, something terrible happened. Little Puff and the others have been kidnapped." Chloe White, who was originally in a video conference, changed her expression. She snapped her laptop shut and walked over. "Leo White, say that one more time." Looking at the female demon boss in front of him, Leo held back his tears and said in a muffled voice, "It's like this, Auntie. Today, my mom and the others took little Puffto, the Lee family, to attend a kid's birthday party. Halfway through, who knows who showed up, but little Puff and the others just followed them away. Chloe White was the person in charge of the White family, aloof, cold, and decisive. After hearing this, she immediately took out her phone and dialed a number. "Jack, you have 5 minutes. Locate my daughters immediately." By the time Chloe arrived at the police station, you had been called inside to sign some paperwork. Little Puff, worried that her mommy's arrival might ruin things, came out early to wait for her. "Mommy!" Seeing Chloe from a distance, Little Puff happily ran towards her. Little Puff looked closely at Chloe. Today, Chloe was wearing a black professional suit. The trousers strictly covered her long, fair legs, and the collar of her shirt was meticulously buttoned to her neck, not showing a single inch of skin. Little Puff couldn't help but frown. "Mommy, you really need to change your fashion style. A woman dresses for the one who delights her. You need to wear cute pink things like us." Chloe looked down at her daughter, her tone completely flat. "I am no longer a 2 or 3-year-old child. I don't need that kind of styling. Also, you sisters aren't the type to be coaxed away by just a few words." What exactly happened today? Her 4 daughters were all little geniuses. By the time they were 2, they could already play on computers with hackers. Now each of them managed their own little domains. With their abilities and IQ, Chloe had every reason to suspect they purposely let themselves be scammed today. Little Puff, instantly seen through by her mommy, curved her eyes and smiled brightly. "Because he said he could take us to find Daddy." Hearing this, Chloe's brows furrowed tightly. When she was born, a fortune teller had predicted that the daughters of the White family in her generation would be naturally infertile, finding it extremely difficult to have heirs. Therefore, since she was little, she didn't act like other delicate young ladies. Instead, she learned to manage the family alongside her father and brothers. She always thought she would never have the chance to be a mother in this lifetime. That was until 5 years ago, when she was set up and had a one-night stand with a stranger. That day, due to a family emergency and tight time constraints, she left without even seeing the man's face clearly. When she got home, her brother and sister-in-law reminded her to take precautions. But thinking she was naturally infertile and had nothing to worry about, she didn't take any morning after pills. Who would have known that she would actually get pregnant and have quadruplet daughters? Although the 4 daughters changed her original life plans, she never regretted giving birth to them. It's just, she always thought they didn't need a father. She never expected they would willingly let themselves be tricked just for the sake of that man. "But, Mommy, we didn't fail this time. We really found Daddy's." Saying this, Little Puff grabbed Chloe's hand and pulled her inside. Listening to her daughter, Chloe's phoenix eyes were filled with suspicion. "Puff, did someone lie to you girls?" No matter how smart her daughters were, they were still children. If someone was intentionally deceiving them, she would make sure that person met a swift end. Little Puff looked back at her, Mommy, and said very seriously, "Mommy, Daddy is not a liar. Daddy is a great hero. He saved us today." Whether he was a hero or not, she would only know after seeing him. Chloe didn't want her daughters to be used. She could see through the other party's intentions with just one glance. After you signed the papers, you saw the file on the desk. It was the record of your time in prison. Having a criminal record was just like this. Even if you were doing a good deed, you would still be cross-examined by the police officers. You smiled bitterly to yourself. That impulsive mistake from the past was now being used as a weapon by Frank, attacking you time and time again. Just as you were about to ask the officer to put the files away, Little Cherry took out her phone and found a picture of Chloe on it. "Daddy, what do you think of this woman? Fair skin, beautiful face, perfect proportions. Plus she's super rich and single." Little Cherry had received a message from Little Puff telling her to start pitching their mommy in advance. You crouched down, looked at the photo on the phone, and couldn't help but laugh. Cherry, sweetie, this is the richest woman in the capital. With your status, you definitely couldn't match a top-tier female tycoon like her. But how could Little Cherry know what you were thinking? She spoke adorably. Daddy, as long as you like her, she is your wife now. I have my ways. Pfft, you were amused by her cute and serious demeanor. You couldn't resist pinching her cheek, nodding. Oh, you're that powerful? Of course! For Daddy, I can become super-duper powerful. Little Cherry raised her hand, promising with extreme seriousness. Little Mochi and Little Grape didn't want to be outdone. Daddy, I can help you too. I'll make you the son-in-law of a wealthy family. Daddy, go get the marriage certificate tomorrow. Just then, footsteps came from outside. He's right inside, Little Puff said happily. Chloe held Little Puff's hand. The moment she pushed the door open, she happened to hear her daughter's conversation. Her exquisite brows instantly frosted over. Just as she thought, it was a man trying to use her daughters to get close to her. Hearing the noise behind you, you immediately stood up. What caught your eye were the woman's stunningly perfect facial features. You couldn't help but marvel. This female tycoon was even more attractive in person than in her photos. It was just that her black suit made her look a bit too cold and distant. The rumored demon boss of the capital truly lived up to her name. And at this moment, Chloe's Gazee was also evaluating you with intense scrutiny. Over the years, for the sake of her daughters, she had gone on blind dates with many young masters from wealthy families. But those good-looking men were either too effeminate or had too many women on the side. The ugly ones, meanwhile, had hilariously high standards. None of them had ever been pleasing to her eyes. The man in front of her, aside from the fact that he was coaxing her daughters, had handsome features, a tall figure, and an exceptionally outstanding aura. He was indeed different from the ones she had met before. You didn't expect this icy female demon boss to just stare at you, making you feel a little awkward. Mommy, this is the husband we found for you! Little Puff noticed the subtle atmosphere between the adults and spoke cutely. Cough, cough, cough! You nearly choked on your own saliva. Then you looked at Little Puff in disbelief. You didn't mishear, right? Little Puff just called Chloe mommy? So the 4 little sweethearts you helped this time were actually Chloe's daughters? Daddy, this is our mommy, Chloe White. Isn't she pretty? Little Grape held your hand, asking happily. Then you guys should go to the civil registry to get married tomorrow. Little Cherry flipped through an almanac on her phone while nodding and saying, Yep, tomorrow is an auspicious day for marriage. It's a very good day. Leo White, who originally just wanted to grab some popcorn and watch the drama, saw the little cuties being so proactive, couldn't help but step forward. He circled around you a few times, then shouted excitedly. I know you, Chloe spoke coldly. You know him? Her gaze was colder than ever before. What does he do? This slightly suspicious tone made you somewhat uncomfortable. But as you looked up at the woman, under the white fluorescent lights, her red lips were pressed into a cold line, yet the corners of her lips were actually tilted upwards. It was somewhat attractive, and surprisingly a bit cute. For some inexplicable reason, you felt Chloe's eyes looked familiar, but thinking about it, you shook your head. How could you possibly have crossed paths with a female tycoon like Chloe White? Chloe actually noticed your gaze too. She crossed her arms, the coldness on her face intensifying. However, for the sake of her daughters, she didn't release too much of her icy aura. At this moment, Leo White snapped back to reality, smiling at Chloe. Auntie, he works in the entertainment industry. If I remember correctly, he's a professional stunt double. You rubbed your nose awkwardly, cleared your throat twice, and said, Actually, I've transitioned into an official actor now. It's just that my resources are a bit lacking. Chloe stared at you thoughtfully. After a moment of silence, she asked, So you approached my daughters because you want me to give you resources? You could understand Chloe's thought process. After all, she was the top female tycoon. Over the years, the number of people who had racked their brain string to get resources from her was countless. But when you helped Little Puff and the others, you had no idea they were Chloe's children. You shook your head. It was just a simple favor. So you want money. For a moment, Chloe couldn't quite read you. Just before you could say no, Little Puff got upset. She crossed her little arms and looked at Chloe with dissatisfaction. Mommy, even though we have a lot of money, we can't insult Daddy with money. Daddy is not the kind of person who wants money. Chloe's brow furrowed. Just as her daughter said this, she noticed the files on the table. She almost instantly picked up the file to check it. Then she stared at you. You've been in prison? Now you were even more embarrassed, but you couldn't hide it either. So you said, I got into a fight when I graduated from college. Men are more handsome when they know how to fight. Otherwise, how can they protect their wife and kids? Little Grape spoke up for you from the side. Even Little Cherry nodded and said, Yeah, Mommy, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Daddy is a good person. He's the one who saved us. Daddy never thought about tricking us. He's not like those bad weirdos. Little Mochi blinked, then turned back to stare at you. The little girl was pink, soft, and had an incredibly serious expression. Daddy doesn't want money for a little while. Daddy wants to spend a lifetime with Mommy and protect us forever. Cough, cough, cough! You coughed a few times and quickly picked up Little Mochi. Sweetie, don't say silly things. I don't have those kinds of thoughts about your mommy. You better not. Chloe's expression clearly stated, if you dare have any thoughts, I'll end you immediately. Meeting her gaze, even you couldn't help but feel a little intimidated. Little Puff looked at you, then at her mommy, coughed twice, and reminded her, Mommy, you taught us that we shouldn't be too hasty when judging people. So you can't think Daddy is bad just because of one piece of paper. You have to live with Daddy for a while to know that he is a true, upright man. He can give you happiness. Chloe was actually somewhat surprised. Her 4 daughters had been little geniuses since childhood. Their standard for evaluating people was actually quite strict, just like hers. But this time they obviously really liked this man named Jack. She couldn't understand what kind of magic potion you had fed her daughters to make them like you so much. Mommy, seeing as you've been single for so long, why don't you go get the marriage certificate with Daddy tomorrow? Little Cherry suddenly leaned in, blinking with an adorable expression. Chloe refused directly without hesitation. No, I can give him money and resources. Anything else is out of the question. You're insulting Daddy with your stinky money. Little Cherry was also very direct. I've already calculated it. Daddy is our family's lucky star. You must marry Daddy, Bai Xiaoqian. Stop this nonsense. This is a police station. Chloe's tone was extremely scary. Even Leo White, standing to the side, was a bit frightened. However, the 4 little girls were even more stubborn than Chloe. At this moment, their little faces turned very serious. They crossed their little arms and stood in front of you. Little Puff said, Mommy, if you don't marry Daddy, I will starve myself to death. Little Mochi followed closely. Then I will die of thirst. Little Cherry chimed in. I will never go home again, and I won't give Mommy kisses anymore. Little Grape added. Then I will cry myself to death. You! Chloe's heart ached a little. They were actually throwing a tantrum at her for a stranger today. Auntie, maybe you should coax them first. Otherwise, if they really make a scene, it's going to be terrifying. Leo White had seen the 4 little treasures cause major chaos when throwing tantrums. He didn't want to see a repeat of that scene. At this moment, the police officer also stepped forward, reminding Chloe, Miss White, this is a police station after all. Whatever issues you have with the young misses, you can go home to resolve them first. Chloe naturally knew this wasn't the right place. She walked over, crouched down in front of her daughters, and reached out to rub each of their little heads. Puff, Grape, Cherry, Mochi, come home with Mommy first. The 4 little treasures shook their heads, taking 2 steps back in unison, getting closer to you. They looked like they absolutely wouldn't leave unless you agreed. Chloe naturally saw this too. The 4 daughters only acknowledged you right now. After a moment of silence, she suddenly looked at you and said coldly, Come here. You sighed helplessly, comforted the 4 little girls first, and then went to the side with Chloe. I don't care what you're scheming, I will not marry you. Saying that, Chloe took out a bank card. This card has no PIN. You can withdraw as much as you want. But I demand that you persuade my daughters to go home with me. But you didn't want to take Chloe's money under these circumstances, especially since you didn't want the little treasures to be disappointed. So you smiled and said, Ms. White, I actually never thought about having any ties with a tycoon like you. You don't need to give me this money. Keep it for the kids. Chloe was stunned. She then stared at you deeply. You really don't want it? I prefer spending what I earn myself. After speaking, you turned around and walked towards the 4 little girls. Little Puff, Little Mochi, Little Grape, and Little Cherry, do you want me to be happy? You crouched in front of them. The 4 little girls nodded obediently, saying in unison, we only listen to Daddy. Then you need to go home with your mommy now, understand? You said with a serious tone. But we want you and Mommy to get married. Little Puff puffed out her cheeks, looking conflicted. You whispered something in her ear. Instantly, Little Puff's eyes lit up. Really? You smiled. So, can you take your sisters home now? Yes, Little Puff nodded happily. Inside the extended Lincoln, Leo White carefully peeked at Chloe several times. I say, Auntie, are you really not curious? Chloe raised an eyebrow. Curious about what? Curious about what that Jack guy said to our little Puff, Leo said, constantly winking at Puff. Chloe wasn't originally curious, but your perfectly handsome face suddenly appeared in her mind, along with your carefree and confident demeanor when you spoke. She eventually asked her eldest daughter, what did he say? Little Puff spoke sweetly. Daddy said, he's going to pursue Mommy in a very, very formal way, and marry Mommy with absolute glory. What he wants to give Mommy isn't grievance, but protection. Whoa, that's quite the confession. Leo White was a bit excited. He just knew his future uncle-in-law was awesome. Chloe's face remained impassive, but the finger holding her phone clearly trembled slightly. Actually, many people had confessed to her, but this Jack was indeed somewhat different. So, Mommy, can you marry Daddy? Little Puff looked at Chloe adorably. The mood was set perfectly. Mommy didn't marry Daddy. Wouldn't it be a huge waste of their feelings? But Chloe kept a cold face. This is not a problem you children should be considering. Little Puff instantly puffed her cheeks and couldn't help but sigh. What to do? Mommy really had no romantic bone in her body. She looked at her 3 sisters. It seemed they would have to take matters into their own hands. This Timito guarantee they'd have both a mother and a father. Chloe had no idea what her 4 daughters were thinking at this moment. She just looked out the car window, The scene of that night floating into her mind. The man from that night, if she found him, would it make the baby's childhoods more complete? After returning to your rental apartment, you made some quick food. Tonight, you needed to constantly check the Film City's group chats. Without the delivery side hustle, you had to find more acting gigs. Although you signed with an agency, you still didn't have a manager. As you lay flat on your bed, your phone rang. You glanced at the screen. The caller ID was just 9/8. Half asleep, you swiped to answer. "Who is it, Daddy?" "It's us!" Little Puff's voice came through the phone. Hearing the little sweethearts' voices, you woke up immediately. Sitting up, you glanced at the clock in the apartment. "It's almost 11 p.m. Why aren't you sleeping yet?" "My sisters and I miss Daddy so much we couldn't sleep," Little Puff said in a milky voice, her tone full of attachment to you. Listening to her voice, you couldn't help but feel a pang of heartache. "Be good, Puff. Take your sisters and go to sleep. I'll visit you in a few days, okay? We want to hear Daddy sing." Little Puff looked at her sisters beside her. Actually, they had everything they ever wanted since birth, except the companionship of a father. You didn't know what was wrong with yourself either. Hearing the little baby's voices just made your heart ache, but you held it inside. "All right, Daddy, we'll sing for you, but you have to be good and go to sleep. However, before Daddy sings, can you give me your ID information?" As she spoke, Little Puff immediately patted Little Cherry's shoulder. Little Cherry was a computer genius. At this very moment, she had already hacked into the civil registry's marriage system. Their mommy's ID info was all entered. They were just missing their daddies. You asked, puzzled, "Why do you babies need my ID info?" "We want to remember Daddy's birthday so we can prepare a super special gift for Daddy," Little Puff explained. You didn't doubt the four babies' motives and gently told them your ID number. Beside her, Little Cherry's fingers flew across the keyboard, instantly inputting your ID info, and then setting up an appointment for marriage registration. You lay back on the bed and asked softly, "What song do you babies want to hear?" The four little girls were very supportive. "We love whatever Daddy sings. Only Daddy's songs are the best in the world. We love Daddy's singing the most." You were amused by them and sang them a rendition of Lonely Hero. The little girls had put the phone on speaker, so Chloe, who was standing outside the door, happened to hear everything. Chloe didn't expect your voice to be so pleasant and extremely infectious. After you finished singing, you couldn't hear the babies' voices anymore, assuming they had fallen asleep, so you softly said, "Good night, my babies." After you hung up the phone, the four little girls who had been pretending to sleep suddenly opened their eyes. Little Puff first went to close the bedroom door. After making sure no one else was around, she said to Little Cherry, "Daddy needs money to get by in the entertainment circle. Transfer some money into Daddy's account. Don't be too flashy about it, just 100 million will do." Little Cherry quickly logged into their bank account and transferred 100 million into your private account. Little Grape looked at her phone on the side, then raised her little hand and said, "Daddy doesn't have any movies to film. Let's invest in a movie and make Daddy the lead. Daddy sings well. I'll personally write a song for Daddy." Little Mochi wanted help too. Little Puff nodded. "All right, what is our goal?" The other three treasures replied. "Spoil Daddy to the very top of the food chain." The next morning, the elder of the White family brought other elders over to urge Chloe to marry. At the dining table, their gazes never left Chloe. Chloe was getting a headache from their staring. She put down her chopsticks and said indifferently, "What do you want to say? In a few days, you'll be having your 25th birthday. Other CEOs your age are already married. It's time you found a father for Puff and the others." Elder White began to advise her earnestly. Chloe pinched the bridge of her nose, saying helplessly, "Marriage is sacred. I don't want a husband who marries me just to help take care of my kids." Elder White got a little anxious. He had been persuading her for years, but his daughter was completely stubborn. At his age, while enjoying a house full of children and grandchildren, he just wanted his single daughter to have a complete life too. Seeing that Elder White was about to lose his temper, Little Puff suddenly blinked and said adorably, "Grandpa, don't worry. Mommy already has a boyfriend." Hearing this, Elder White's expression changed. He looked at Little Puff with a beaming smile. "Really? Quick, tell Grandpa, what kind of person does your mommy like?" Just as Little Puff was about to say your name, her little mouth was covered by Chloe. "Don't listen to their nonsense. I don't like anyone." Saying that, Chloe shot a warning glance at her other three daughters. But Elder White narrowed his eyes. Even the other White family elders at the table had knowing grins on their faces. Who was Chloe White? A woman known for being aloof and proud. If she wasn't interested in a man, Ta would express it outright. But now, covering her daughter's mouth, this hesitant demeanor clearly meant there was something going on. Elder White knew his daughter's temper, so he knew when to stop pushing. He waited until Chloe went to work and personally took the four little treasures to kindergarten before asking, "Does your mommy really have someone she likes?" Little Puff nodded. "We don't lie. Mommy met up with our daddy." Elder White realized that if his clever little granddaughters approved, it meant the guy must be really good. After all, his granddaughters had very high standards. Then hurry up and take Grandpa to see him. Grandpa needs to prepare gifts for your daddy. To be able to win over his daughter, of course the entire White family had to mobilize to support him. However, little Puff stroked her chin and shook her head with a serious expression. Grandpa Daddy is a very good and pure person. He can be a bit shy. You and Grandma and the others are a bit fierce. You'll scare him. Saying that, she took out a small card and handed it to Elder White. This is the doting on the son-in-law training class. We've already enrolled everyone for it. Once Grandpa, Grandma, great uncles and great aunts all learn how to pamper our daddy, then you can meet him, Elder White thought about, and agreed he probably needed a training class. He nodded and said, all right then, we'll go to training first. But if your future daddy needs money, a yacht, or anything, you must tell Grandpa. All his treasures were prepared to be left to his future son-in-law anyway. Little Puff smiled and nodded. Thank you, Grandpa. When it was time for kindergarten to end, Chloe was a bit worried her daughters might cause trouble, so she decided to personally pick them up and take them home. When she arrived at the school gates, she saw the 4 adorable little girls standing there obediently waiting for her. Babies, let's go home. Chloe gently reached out to her daughters, signaling them to get in the car. However, unexpectedly, the 4 little girls stood their ground in perfect unison. None of them showed any intention of getting in. Chloe's expression grew serious. She spoke again. Get in the car. Come home with Mommy. At this moment, little Grape, who loved acting cute the most, trotted over, tightly hugging Chloe's thigh and begging in her soft, sweet voice. Mommy, your future husband misses you. Hurry up and go see him. Chloe looked at her daughters, blinking their big eyes with innocent faces, and immediately realized they were setting her up. But she didn't refuse because she was also curious about what you were doing right now. So Chloe said, all right, just this once. Yay for Mommy. Love Mommy the most. Watching her excited daughters, Chloe's eyes darkened thoughtfully. She was very surprised that you had such a massive influence on her daughters. At the film city, you finally got a great opportunity to play a royal guard. However, just as you finished your makeup and were ready to shoot, the lead actress started throwing a diva fit for no reason, causing the entire crew's filming schedule to be severely delayed. Watching the sky gradually darken, the actress's scenes were still not finished. You checked the time, calculating in your head. It looked like you had to go buy a boxed meal to fill your stomach first to survive this long night shoot. Just as you turned to head toward the food stalls, you absolutely did not expect to run into Chloe and her daughters. This time, Chloe wasn't wearing her usual black trousers. Instead, she wore a black silk shirt paired with a stunning black pencil skirt. Her legs were long and fair, but her face was just too icy. One look was enough to make someone feel frozen in place. You couldn't help but frown. Daddy? Little Grape was the first to rush over to you, her eyes, like a sea of stars, filled with adoration. You immediately crouched down and gently picked her up. Why did you come to the film city? Because we miss Daddy. We want to eat dinner with Daddy, Little Grape said. However, you couldn't help but apologize. I still have to wait to shoot my scenes. I can't eat with you guys today. Little Grape's soft, chubby face instantly fell in disappointment. She looked back at Chloe. Mommy, what do we do? Little Puff was actually very similar to Chloe. She made a prompt decision. Then let the film city take the night off. No one shoots tonight. Nothing in the world is more important than our daddy eating dinner. You had lines of sweat dropping down your forehead. Babies, that will affect other people's work. I am an actor. I can't be that selfish. But we really want to eat with Daddy. What should we do? Saying this, Little Grape pouted her lips. At this moment, Little Cherry looked at Chloe. Mommy, let's have our head chef deliver food here. Our family's chefs are world class. They can make whatever Daddy likes to eat. As she spoke, Little Mochi had already taken other phone to call the villa's chef. You hurriedly stepped in to stop her. Mochi, sweetie, that's too flashy. Uncle is just an extra. Having a private chef deliver food will attract gossip from the industry. Hearing this, Little Mochi's little face fell. I really hate these people in showbiz. I really just want to buy the entire entertainment industry and give it to Daddy. Chloe also saw your concern. She patiently persuaded her daughters. All right, let's just make do with a restaurant nearby for now. We can make it up to him later. Little Puff caught the main point. She immediately grabbed both your hand and Chloe's hand at the same time. Mommy, you said it! You have to treat Daddy to another meal later. Chloe's mouth twitched. Her little troublemakers were really hard to deal with. Considering Chloe's special status, after careful thought, you took the mother and daughters to a 3-star hotel near the film city. After ordering, Little Puff without hesitation handed her own bank card to the hotel manager. Witnessing this scene, you couldn't help but sigh internally. The little princess from the #1 wealthy family really was different. Daddy, the conditions here are a bit limited. Let's just make do and eat something simple today. Little Puff's tone seemed apologetic, as if she felt she was wronging you. You, on the other hand, smiled faintly. Internally, you were screaming. Babies, this isn't simple at all, and it's definitely not a grievance. These are already incredibly high-end dishes. The hotel manager knew Chloe's identity, so this table of food was served with the utmost speed. Looking at the table full of delicious food, Little Puff and her sisters didn't start eating themselves. Instead, they started serving you food. Little Grape, this Australian lobster is pretty good. You try it first. Little cherry daddy, this hairy crab has lots of roe. It's super fragrant. Try it quick. Little mochi daddy, braised chicken with sea cucumber is good for your health. I blew on it for you, it's ready to eat. Little puff, this Buddha jumps over the wall soup is really good too. Here daddy, take a bite first. Sitting across from you, Chloe's feelings were quite complicated. She had been watching the interaction between you and her babies. Over the years, even as their biological mother, she had never been so pampered by her daughters. Yet you were receiving this royal treatment. She suddenly realized your influence on the little treasures might be even greater than she imagined. After being fed by the 4 little girls for a while, you finally noticed Chloe's gaze was fixed on you. You frowned slightly, remembering the little girls were still calling you daddy, and quickly told them, Puff, mochi, cherry, grape, you can't call me daddy anymore, okay? After all, if your real father comes looking for you one day, it might cause trouble. The 4 babies immediately looked at you with extremely pitiful expressions. Does daddy not like us anymore? I knew it, we're still annoying, not worth daddy liking. But what do? We really like daddy. As the little girls spoke, they looked like they were about to cry. Your heart instantly melted. You first asked Chloe, Miss White, where is the baby's real father? Chloe had never hidden this matter from her daughters. So when you asked, she answered naturally. 5 years ago I was drugged by a business rival and had Puff and the others with a stranger. So she was set up. In that aspect, you two were actually in the same boat. You thought to yourself, she continued, speaking coldly, Puff and the others like you, I'm very surprised. Next, Chloe took out another bank card and slid it in front of you. Then she said, so I'd like to hire you as their home tutor. You can teach them some self-defense and spend more time with them. However, you pushed the bank card back once again. Miss White, I can't take this money. Chloe's expression changed instantly. Jack, what do you mean? I like Puff and the others, but I don't want to tie that to money. Chloe was silent for a good while before saying, the White family never likes to owe people favors. You also understood Chloe was a woman of strong principles. Therefore, you looked at the little girls, then turned to Chloe and said, if Ms. White insists on expressing gratitude, you could wear matching family outfits with Puff and the girls a few more times. Chloe didn't expect you to make such a request. Matching family outfits? She couldn't help but frown. Seeing her mommy's expression, little Puff immediately got worried. Mommy, you can't be so fierce to daddy. You'll scare daddy. If mommy keeps scaring daddy, I won't like mommy anymore. Little Grape even started throwing threats. Seeing the tense atmosphere among the mother and daughters, you quickly picked up Little Grape and coaxed them. I was just joking with your mommy. Babies, don't be mad at mommy. Uncle still has to go film his scenes, can't be late. Hearing you say this, the 4 little girls were like they had been cast with a spell. They instantly became quiet. They lowered their heads in perfect unison, their movements gentle and obedient as they nodded. At this moment, Chloe's heart was a mix of flavors. Her daughters really did care more about Jack. Her 4 little treasures had more schemes than holes in a lotus root. She never expected that one day they would actually fall for a stranger. Chloe looked at you thoughtfully, then suddenly said, all right, Jack, I will consider your suggestion. After dinner, you left the hotel with Chloe and her daughters. You originally planned happily to let the little babies come along to the set to watch you act. But no one expected that the moment you stepped onto the set, a sharp, ear-piercing female voice suddenly rang out. Hey, are you Jack? The voice was full of anger and accusation. You were scheduled to shoot the murder scene first. Where the hell did you wander off to? Are you intentionally trying to kill me and delay the crew's progress? This sudden questioning was as fierce as a storm, catching you somewhat off guard. The one throwing this sudden tantrum was lead actress of the show, Stella. She was currently a trending starlet in the industry, backed by heavy capital, so she acted like a massive diva on set. Earlier, she was the one who threw a tantrum and refused to film. Now she was redirecting her anger to cause trouble for others. The crew members were angry, but didn't dare speak out. Hey you, I'm talking to you. Are you even listening? Do you want me to blacklist you? The more Stella spoke, the more fired up she got, even starting to boast. You probably don't know, do you? My current sponsor is Young Master Wu. Young Master Wu does business with the Emperor Group. You're going to pay for everyone's mental distress, plus my lost wages and nutritional supplements. Saying that, she yawned, then lazily turned around. Forget it. I'm going back for my beauty sleep. I'll have my manager settle the score with you later. Don't even think about messing with me. Strutting like she owned the place, Stella turned and got right into her luxury RV. Looking at her back, you couldn't help but get a headache. You could tell Stella obviously wanted to extort you. There was absolutely no way you were paying her a dime. Just as you were thinking this, Stella's manager, Maggie, walked over. This woman was in her 40s, her face full of plastic surgery. When she looked at you, her eyes were gleaming. She shoved a hotel room card directly into your hand and whispered ambiguously in your ear. I know it's not easy being a newbie in showbiz. Don't worry, I won't make things hard for you. Come find me in this room later tonight. You know what I mean. After Maggie left, you looked at the room card in your hand and almost cursed. Trying to use Stella's drama to cast you on the casting couch? What a joke. Chloe and her daughters had watched from the side for a long time. Only after Maggie left did they walk over. At this moment, Chloe's stunning face was covered in frost as she stared at you. Need help? You didn't want Chloe to intervene in this matter, so you shook your head. Thank you for the offer, Ms. White, but I can handle this myself. You don't need to play tough. Chloe's brow furrowed slightly, a dark cloud seeming to gather over her fair face. You could tell she was unhappy. They say a woman's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the ocean. A domineering female tycoon like her was even harder to read. You didn't want to upset her, so you smiled and said, I'm really not trying to be tough. I've been in the entertainment circle for 3 or 4 years now. I've known how to handle this kind of thing for a long time. But Little Grape looked at you with a heart full of ache. But I'm afraid Daddy's hands will hurt. Hearing this, your heart turned completely to mush. Don't worry, Uncle's hands won't hurt. If they really do, I'll come find you to rub them for Uncle, okay? You said, reaching out to rub Little Grape's head. Okay, I'll blow the pain away for Daddy. After separating from Chloe and her daughters, you still took the room card to find Maggie. Maggie preying on male actors had always been an open secret in the industry. It's just that no one dared to expose it. But you weren't afraid. You had nothing to lose. As soon as you entered the hotel, you called a paparazzi friend and slipped a voice recorder into your pocket. After you got in the elevator, an imposing Lincoln appeared in the hotel parking lot. Little Puff, Little Grape, Little Cherry, and Little Mochi all looked up at Chloe. At this moment, Chloe's face was completely cold, seemingly focused on her work. Little Puff got a bit anxious. Mommy, hurry up and send someone to help Daddy. That bad lady is going to eat Daddy alive. Chloe finally looked at her daughters and said in a deep voice, You should trust him. Little Cherry sighed, looking exasperated at her mother's lack of action. Mommy, Daddy didn't want us to get dragged down by him. That's why he didn't want you to interfere. Daddy is trying to protect Mommy, thinking about Mommy's reputation. A good man like that you couldn't find with a lantern. If Mommy doesn't go save Daddy and pamper Daddy, you'll be crying later. Chloe pinched the bridge of her nose, saying somewhat helplessly, You guys really want me to help him that badly? Of course! The 4 little girls nodded vigorously. Chloe remained silent for a moment, then immediately took out her phone and dialed a number. After the person on the other end listened, they packed their things and sprinted over like their pants were on fire. Meanwhile, just as you were being harassed by that old cougar, you saw Chloe walk in with the 4 little dumplings. Instantly, the temperature in the room dropped to freezing. The little dumplings were puffing their cheeks in anger, their glares practically shooting daggers at the old bat. Maggie was startled when she saw Chloe. Later, when she heard the 4 little dumplings call you Daddy, her legs gave out and she collapsed onto the floor. She cried and wiped her tears, adding a hint of a threat as she said, In the entertainment industry, we see each other all the time. Why push someone to a dead end? It won't end well for you either. The threat was way too obvious. Little Puff and the others were furious, but Chloe was clearly much calmer than her daughters. Without saying much, she turned to Zhao Yuanfei behind her. Notify everyone. Tomorrow morning, I want the person named Maggie to disappear from the entertainment industry entirely. Maggie's face grew even paler. She trembled as she said, Mrs. White, could you please spare me out of respect for young Master Wu? Young Master Wu has business with the Emperor Group. However, Chloe acted as if she had just been reminded. She turned back and continued instructing Zhao Yuanfei. Terminate our partnership with the Wu family immediately. Tell them, if they choose to protect her, then there's no need for the Wu family to exist either. Hearing this, Maggie was so terrified she almost passed out. They had truly kicked a steel plate this time. Maggie looked at you weakly. We're both in the same industry. I beg you, please talk to Ms. White. Don't drive all of us to a dead end. If it really came to that, they were all finished. However, you crossed your arms and shrugged as if helpless. Miss White's decisions cannot be interfered with by anyone. At this moment, you finally understood why people in the capital called Chloe White a stunningly dangerous demon boss. A woman like her, provoke her once, and you lose everything. Too dangerous. She first had the bodyguards take the babies home, while she got into a car alone with you. After a dizzying spin, you were pinned by her against the back seat of the car. Chloe's delicate little hand interlocked tightly with yours. She told you, seeing that woman getting handsy with you today made her very uncomfortable. You were slightly stunned, but what really made you awkward was the position Chloe was straddling you in. If this kept going, the old house was really going to catch fire. Chloe, you get down first. This is very dangerous. This is not how you test my self-control. She didn't answer you. Instead, she freed one hand and began searching your body. Chloe, stop it! Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to control myself. If you can't control yourself, what will you do? Saying this, she suddenly leaned in. Her soft lips lightly brushed against your Adam's apple, just like a dragonfly skimming the water. You were on the verge of a breakdown. Chloe White, do you really want to see what I'll do? Her expression was serious. Then show me. This woman, Chloe. Just as you were battling with yourself, your phone suddenly rang again. Chloe's face sank. You instinctively went for your phone, but the phone slipped down and landed right in front of Chloe. She reached out to grab it, trying to pull away from you, but clumsily ended up pressing directly against your body. You felt like you were being roasted over an open fire. To make matters worse, the phone kept ringing like crazy. Afraid of making Chloe uncomfortable, you could only hold her waist with one hand and answer the phone with the other. It was Simon's voice on the other end, full of provocation. "Hurry up and come! Ha ha ha! If you don't come, you're going to miss a great show!" As Simon's voice faded, a girl's scream rang out on the other end. "No, please don't!" Your brow furrowed tightly. You recognized that voice. It was your cousin, Mia's. "Simon, you just want me to come over. Don't touch Mia. I'm heading there right now," you said, and hung up the phone. You quickly gave Chloe a brief explanation, then said, "I'm going to find Simon now. I have to destroy that scumbag first." Seeing you wanting to go fight alone, Chloe's expression turned serious. "I know you have the ability to handle those people, but do you realize that you now have me and the babies? We don't want you getting hurt alone." You felt a surge of emotion in your heart and said, "But you guys know, I know martial arts. That kind of sick bastard can only be dealt with by someone like me. You guys are too clean. I don't want you getting your hands dirty, but I'm afraid your hands will hurt." Saying that, Chloe grabbed your hand and lowered her head to kiss your palm. Chloe's unintentional seduction was truly fatal. After being maneuvered by Chloe like this, you indeed couldn't find a reason to refuse, and ended up going to the birthday banquet with her. Simon's birthday banquet was at the Song family's private club. Before you arrived, things inside were already completely out of control. Mia was in a horrific state, her clothes torn, forced to sit in the center of the stage holding a cello. Simon held his phone pointing at Mia, recording a video while grinning wickedly. "Keep playing. This young master hasn't heard enough. If you lack motivation, we'll help you find some." There was a group of men surrounding her, laughing uproariously at Mia, utterly despicable. Mia's tears fell uncontrollably. She felt she was already submerged in darkness, impossible to ever encounter light again. When you and Chloe got out of the car, you could already hear the waiters discussing the chaos inside. Your fists clenched tightly. "Chloe, the scene inside might not be pretty." Before walking through the door, you stopped Chloe. Chloe simply snapped her fingers. The bodyguards who were 5 meters away all rushed out. She looked at you expressionlessly. "Whoever pollutes our vision, will gauge their eyes out. But since you want to go in, what can I do? Smash whatever you want in there today. If you break anything, the White family has your back." After Chloe finished speaking, she linked her arm through yours. Then, right by your ear, she lowered her voice. "I told you before, in front of outsiders, you're my master." You took a deep breath. "Man, my heart is just going to explode at this rate." Inside the banquet hall, Simon was going crazy. He picked up a small bucket filled with champagne, went behind Mia, and poured it directly over her. "Mia, call him right now and tell him to come save you. As long as you coax him into coming and take a picture with him, I can stop torturing you from now on. How about that?" Simon smirked. Mia's pupils trembled. Of course she knew what Simon meant. This man wanted her to trick you into coming, and then humiliate you completely too. Simon grabbed Mia's hair and slammed her against the cello. "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand." Mia endured the pain, pretending to be clueless. "You little tramp, you're a good sister, aren't you? Knowing you have to scheme to protect him. But does a piece of trash like him deserve your protection? Playing dumb, huh?" Saying this, Simon turned to the men. "Come on, let's get her together. Let's shoot a little movie for her. Jack is in showbiz, right? Let's get his cousin on camera too. Let her be a big star for once." Hearing this, the men all crowded in. They pinned Mia to the ground, ready to act like animals. Mia cried and screamed, "Please, don't do this to me. No, not only am I going to do this to you, I'm going to take pictures and live stream it for you." Saying this, Simon took out his phone and started recording video. And right at that moment, you and Chloe appeared. Simon and the others froze in their tracks. But soon Mia snapped out of it. She yelled at you. "What are you doing here? I don't want to see you. Get out. Don't stay. They're going to kill you." "Brother Jack, why didn't you listen?" Mia cried as she yelled. She didn't want to see you here. At this moment, with your arm around Chloe's waist, you walked in step by step. When you saw the scene on the ground clearly and saw the expressions of the people around, your eyes surged with murderous intent. Simon didn't know Chloe. Seeing her standing next to you, he licked his lips and smirked. "Yo, Jack, brought a woman for this young master? Then I won't hold back." As he finished speaking, the man grabbed a giant champagne bottle and hurled it at you. Your foot kicked the champagne bottle. The giant bottle reversed direction and smashed right into the punk standing next to Simon. The guy was knocked out cold, lying on the floor, foaming at the mouth, unable to move an inch, and Simon's leg was already being hugged tightly by Mia. Seeing him trying to attack you, Mia used all her strength to hold on to Simon's leg. It was the only clumsy way she could help you. Seeing your cousin's actions, your face turned ice cold. You first shielded Chloe behind you, then pointed at Simon and said in a deep voice, "Let Mia go." Simon wanted to beat you up but ended up getting his underling hit instead, so naturally he was very unhappy. After cursing "screw this," he raised his hand, ordering all the banquet thugs to rush you. But he clearly underestimated your strength. Protecting Chloe with one hand, you threw punches with the other. With absolute ease, you beat these goons until they were kneeling on the ground howling in pain. Simon watched with a dark expression, his heart full of disbelief. How is this possible? Wasn't you a piece of trash? How are you such a good fighter now? Who trained him to be like this? You placed Chloe safely in an empty area away from the thugs, stepped over the bodies of those people one by one, and arrived in front of Mia. Seeing you walk over radiating such power, the emotions Mia had suppressed for so long completely broke down. She sobbed uncontrollably, repeating over and over, "Brother Jack. Brother Jack." The girl barely had clothes to cover herself. Her arms, her back, every visible spot was covered in bruises from the struggle. Looking at this, your heart burned with raging fire. You took off your jacket and carefully draped it over Mia first. Your fury could no longer be contained. You suddenly executed a flying kick, landing a direct hit squarely on Simon's chest. With one kick, you sent him flying into the swimming pool. Then you handed Mia over to Chloe to take care of, jumped straight into the pool, grabbed Simon by the hair, pushed his head down, and forced him to swallow water repeatedly. Midway, someone jumped into the water to help Simon, but was instantly kicked away by you. In the water, you seemed to face no resistance. Fierce and ruthless, you looked like a demon who had just crawled out of hell. Those who didn't know you were now all dumbfounded, filled with fear. Even Mia was startled. How could her brother Jack, who she always thought was weak, be so incredibly strong? Just as you were about to drown Simon to death, a woman suddenly yelled from the side, "You, stop right there! We've already called the police." The one speaking was Simon's sister, Sarah. She originally came to see how messy her brother's party had gotten today, but didn't expect to walk in and see you beating someone up. She didn't ask for the cause and effect, but immediately dialed the police. "Murder is a crime! You won't get away with this today," Sarah continued to threaten. But you didn't stop immediately. Instead, you continued to teach Simon a lesson. You had limits. You knew exactly how to play without actually killing him. But Mia was trembling all over. She pulled on Chloe's arm, her voice hoarse as she said, "Big sister, please make my cousin stop. That Sarah is terrifying. She knows a lot of lawyers. She'll destroy him." However, Chloe just gave Sarah an icy sidelong glance, crossed her arms, and said with overwhelming dominance, "A mere Song family, they think they're worthy of touching him? If Sarah dared to make trouble for you, she wouldn't mind wiping out the entire Song family." Seeing Chloe act like this, Mia's breath hitched sharply. At the same time, she stared at the side of Chloe's face, her head aching dizzily. So strange. Why does this sister's side profile look so familiar? It's like she had seen her a long time ago. However, before Mia could think further, she heard the sound of police sirens outside. Just as you dislocated Simon's arm in the water, the police officers walked in. Seeing the officers arrive so quickly, you frowned slightly. It seemed there was going to be a little trouble. You didn't want to blow this up any further. In the parking lot outside, when the little cuties found out you came here to save someone, they also rushed over frantically. Little Puff pressed against the car window. Seeing so many police officers going in, she immediately got worried. Did the bad guys call the Policito arrest our daddy? Their young uncle, Leo White, wasn't worried at all. Instead, he rubbed Little Puff's head. "Puff, baby, what are you worried about? Your mom, the Demon Queen, is in there. Even the police officers have to give her face. Relax, relax. No one dares to hurt your daddy." Little Puff looked at her sisters, still feeling they couldn't take this lightly. Little Cherry moved very fast. She had already taken out her phone to make a call. "Grandpa Gordon, it's me. I have a favor to ask you." Hearing Little Cherry's voice, the person on the other end immediately laughed. "Sure, how many men do you need? Grandpa will arrange it for you right now. 1,000 men, and a few helicopters. It'd be best to bring some heavy weapons, too," Little Cherry said in her sweet, milky voice. Master Gordon was stunned for a moment, then laughed. "Baby, why do you suddenly need so many men?" "Because I'm afraid our daddy is getting bullied. So I need to find more people," Little Cherry said innocently. But Master Gordon thought to himself, "Little baby, this kind of firepower is enough to level an entire family clan to the ground. It seems some blind fool has messed with the yandere little demon boss." Later, when he found out you were being bullied, he directly dispatched 50 helicopters, all because you stood up for your cousin Mia, and broke one of the arms of Simon who tried to assault her. Later, you were taken away by the police for questioning. They advised you not to clash head-on. Just as you were about to speak, a sudden roar from your father, George, echoed from outside. "You useless animal, always ruining everything." He was brought here by Frank. Frank knew Sarah's temper, so he brought George over to add fuel to the fire. He believed that as long as they played their cards right today, you would definitely go to jail. "Please don't be angry." Frank supported George's arm, then looked at the officers at the door, saying with a humble attitude, "Sorry, my dad is just worried about my younger brother. You guys don't know this brother of mine always acts recklessly, making our whole family worry." Saying this, he purposefully let out a sigh, pretending to look very guilty. "It's also my fault, as his older brother. I should have taken better care of him." Hearing this, George felt even more heartache for Frank. "You always take his mistakes onto yourself. You're just too kind-hearted. No matter what, he is Dad's biological son. I can't not consider him for Dad's sake." Frank sighed. "I'd rather he wasn't my son," George said, pushing open the door to the interrogation room. He happened to see you sitting lazily on a chair, facing you. His anger flared up. "Rebellious son, get over here. Your father is here, and you dare to just sit there. You picked your ear, still showing no major reaction. Mr. Jiang, is there something you need? Look at this. Look at his attitude. I worked so hard to raise him, and this is what he turns out to be. Saying this, George turned to the police officers and said, "Go tell the Song family, our Jiang family won't protect him. Send him straight to jail." Hearing this, the young officer, Jung Yunfei, was put in a tough spot. He quickly looked at you and whispered, "Your dad didn't come to help you, he came to send you to jail. Is there any father like this?" You gave them a cold glance and sneered. Didn't you hear Frank calling him dad? For 5 years, you had basically never called them mom or dad again. The Jiang family, to you, had long lost any meaning. Everyone's here. At this moment, Sarah walked over. Beside her was the old matriarch of the Song family. The old Madame Song spoiled her grandson terribly. Even though Simon's injuries weren't fatal, she wanted you dead right now. My grandson almost lost his life, and you're all here wasting time, old Madame Song said, glaring viciously at George. George knew he couldn't afford to offend old Madame Song. His attitude towards her was very good, bowing his head and saying subserviently, "Please quell your anger, madam. Jack has nothing to do with our Jiang family anymore. Rest assured, we will prioritize justice over family and let him go to jail." Hearing this, old Madame Song reluctantly nodded. Then she thought about what they mentioned outside regarding Chloe. Even though those people didn't know Chloe's name, they all thought she was beautiful, and Simon was interested in her at the time. So old Madame Song said, "And that little tramp who came with you, since she offered herself up for free to my grandson, our Song family will take her back with us later." You laughed out of sheer anger. The interrogation wasn't even over yet. Insulting you was one thing, but daring to say Chloe and Mia were prostitutes? You have no evidence to prove we are guilty, so you have no right to decide our fate. You spoke neither haughtily nor humbly. George glared at you. "Shut your mouth, otherwise I'll cut your tongue out." Old Madame Song was already furious beyond measure. "Fine, you dare defy me, Sarah. Call Arthur over right now. Since he's looking for death, I'll make sure he never walks out of prison in this lifetime." Upon hearing the name Arthur, everyone froze. You slightly narrowed your eyes. Arthur? This name sounded very familiar. Seeing their reaction, old Madame Song smiled smugly. "Scared now? Too late. Now I'm going to make sure you die without a burial place." Even Sarah threw you a proud glance. "A piece of trash like you daring to bully my brother. You're really looking to die." Outside, the news that old Madame Song called Arthur over had spread to the hall. Chloe, Mia, and the others all heard it. Now Simon's degenerate friends were extremely smug, all looking at Chloe with malicious intent. "Woman, you chose the wrong man. Ha ha ha. You might as well submit to me right now. Come here, let's get a little intimate. Who knows, maybe later I can protect you." Jack, that idiot, overestimating himself to touch Simon. He's really asking for death. Chloe's face didn't look good either. She indeed couldn't mess with Arthur casually. But you were her man. She would never allow anyone to touch her man. This time, even if she had to exhaust her entire family's resources, she would back you up. With this thought, Chloe had already sent a message to Elder White. Elder White, who was currently studying how to dote on a son-in-law, saw the message, immediately yelled, "Class dismissed," and told all the men in the family to grab their gear and prepare for a shootout with those bastards tonight. The man his daughter chose was definitely a dragon among men. Daring to touch him? They really kicked a steel plate. Frank probably wanted to see you suffer more, so he deliberately asked, "Mrs. Song, are you saying there's really no one who can restrain the Murong family?" Sarah was in a good mood, so she generously said, "It's not that there's no one. Arthur has a master. Everyone in the Murong family has to kowtow to him. Ha ha ha. Did you hear that? Hurry up and find Arthur's master. Maybe you still have a chance to be saved." After saying that, Frank shook his head again, feigning guilt as he added, "Look at me, how could I be so stupid? You can't even leave the police station right now. How are you going to find Arthur's master?" You ignored them. You just saw your phone suddenly vibrate. A message came through. "Master, your disciple will arrive in the capital in 10 minutes. I wonder if I could buy you a drink tonight?" Your finger lightly tapped the phone screen. The message was just sent. Before you even had time to put the phone away, George charged over. He directly snatched the phone away and smashed it hard onto the ground. Then he pointed viciously at your nose and scolded, "What time is it? And you're still playing on your phone?" The constant bickering between father and sons suddenly made old Madame Song impatient, so she said, "Enough talking. Hurry up, go out, finish the statement, and send Jack to prison." Old Madame Song crossed her arms, snorting coldly twice. "Let me tell you the truth. It doesn't matter who comes to the capital today. It's useless." Thinking that Arthur was about to walk in, old Madame Song became even more smug. Meanwhile, Chloe looked at you. "Don't worry, the White family will protect you with all our might." Hearing this, Sarah's expression changed a bit. She quickly looked at old Madame Song. "Grandma, could she be Chloe White?" Actually, at this moment, old Madame Song had also vaguely guessed Chloe's identity. But she wasn't afraid at all. She smiled and said, "So what if she has the White family?" "I have Arthur!" Knock, knock, knock. Right at this moment, an incredibly abrupt knocking sound echoed through the hall. Sarah fixed her hair and walked straight over. "Brother Arthur, you finally arrived. I've been waiting for you to come back me up. Don't worry, Simon's business is the Murong family's business. No matter who it is, no one is allowed to bully him. Arthur also nodded to old Madam Song. This made Sarah even happier. She hooked one arm around Arthur's and pointed at you with the other. Brother Arthur, that's him! He injured my brother! Daring to lay a hand on Simon. I think he's really tired of living. You, come here! Arthur coldly snorted at your back. You want me to come over? You slowly turned around. The next second, the thud of knees hitting the ground echoed through the hall. Following that, everyone else looked like they had seen a ghost. Arthur! Why did he kneel down? Sarah snapped back to reality and quickly went to help Arthur up. You couldn't blame them for being shocked. The Murong family usually walked sideways in the capital. Without exaggeration, even a servant who cleaned toilets for their family would have someone open car doors for them when they went out. Sarah turned her head and saw you. Her expression instantly changed to disgust as she said, Did you use a hidden weapon on Brother Arthur? What the hell are you? You dare attack my brother Arthur. Seeing Sarah's choice of words getting more and more vicious, Arthur, his eyes turning red, interrupted her. Sarah Song! Shut your bleeping mouth. Get on your knees right now. Hearing this, Sarah was dumbfounded. She looked back in disbelief and asked, Brother Arthur, you want me to kneel? However, at this moment, Arthur was facing you. Thump, thump, thump! He kowtowed 3 times loudly. Then, with an extremely respectful attitude, he said, Master, your disciple has offended you just now. Please punish me, Master. As soon as this sentence came out, the scene instantly fell as dead silent as a graveyard. Get on your knees right now, Arthur snapped fiercely at Sarah. Then, with a face full of reverence, he shuffled closer to you. Master, your disciple will first break his own arm to quell your anger. No need. Tonight I just wanted to get justice for my cousin, you said faintly. Then there's no need for Master to take action personally. Arthur checked your expression. Only after you permitted him to stand up did he sharply rise. Master, it's getting late. You should go back and rest. Leave the aftermath here to your disciple. Saying that, he swept his gaze over old Madam's Song and the other rich kids who were causing trouble. Private settlements or public lawsuits, he was going to hit them with everything. You naturally trusted Arthur's abilities. Just as you were about to say something, a sudden roaring sound came from overhead. Everyone was shocked. What? What is this now? At this moment, above the police station, massive helicopter rotors churned the clouds. White searchlights beamed down, carrying an intense, overwhelming pressure. Seeing this scene, the people outside were so terrified they kept backing up, rushing inside and shouting, So many helicopters. It looks like they're going to surround us. Good Lord, are they here to bomb the police station? Who has such massive guts? Chief Jin Changjong really wanted to curse out loud, but turning around and seeing Arthur and you, he suddenly felt that Tevin, if someone really came to bomb the place, it was beyond his pay grade to handle, so he carefully smiled at you. Boss Jack, do you happen to know the people outside? You shook your head expressionlessly. I don't know them. You genuinely didn't know who in the domestic military would be so arrogant. Now Jin Changjong felt like crying. He smiled ingratiatingly and said, You see, even Arthur is your disciple. You must have some way to handle this. Why don't you go out and take a look first? Hearing this, you slightly turned your head and realized everyone's eyes were on you. It's okay, you still have me. Chloe nodded to you. No matter who came outside this time, she would protect you with everything she had. Eventually you led Chloe, Mia, and the others outside. Watching their retreating backs, old Madam Song said to Sarah, You go out and check too. It would be best if you die outside. Then no one will make things difficult for our Song family. A few rich kids sharing old Madam Song's mindset were secretly thinking right now, it better be someone super badass outside, the kind who just wants you dead, then they wouldn't be punished today. At this moment, more than a dozen modified bulletproof vehicles suddenly appeared in the parking lot. The 4 little girls had already hopped out of the cars. The usually soft and cute little babies now looked like 4 little demon witches. Little Puff dropped her usual obedient and sensible act. Raising her little hand towards the gate, she held a walkie-talkie and said, You have half an hour, Max. If our daddy and mommy don't come out safely, level the place to the ground. Beside her, Leo White swallowed hard several times, patting his chest in absolute awe. A demon spawns demons. Look at them at this age, willing to blow up a police station for their own dad. Little Grape had already picked up a megaphone, cleared her throat and yelled, Listen up, people inside. You must send my daddy out within half an hour. He must not have a single scratch on him. Otherwise, I'll make sure you bite off more than you can chew. At this moment, the doors of the bulletproof cars opened. Elder White hurried over. Seeing what Little Grape was saying, he frowned and couldn't help but say, Grape, all this fighting and killing is no good. Besides, how can you threaten them so fiercely? Little Grape flattened her mouth. If we don't threaten them, what else can we do? Come, let Grandpa teach you. When we do things, we must be gentle. We must convince people with virtue, Elder White said with an exceptionally serious expression. The 4 little girls blinked their big eyes, looking like the most obedient babies. Next, they saw Elder White raise his hand to the over 100 White family mercenaries behind him say, with extreme gentleness and benevolence, Charge in immediately! Except for the son-in-law and the young missus, kill everyone else, leave no one alive. Leo White was utterly dumbfounded. Wait, Grandpa, this is what you call gentle. This is convincing people with virtue. Just as they saw these men geared up and ready to charge in, a few silhouettes walked out against the light. Hold on! Once Elder White saw clearly who it was, he quickly raised his hand to stop the mercenaries. The little babies rubbed their eyes, looked ahead again. Daddy came out. Little Puff immediately threw the walkie-talkie on the ground, adjusted her expression, and gave a cute, adorable smile. Little Grape, who just looked like a god of death, also rubbed her little cheeks, instantly turning soft and sweet. As for Little Cherry and Little Mochi, who were holding guns, they immediately hid everything in the car and pulled lollipops out of their pockets. And Elder White, who was ready to convince people with virtue, nervously signaled the mercenaries with his eyes. Quick, quick, quick! Hide! Then he straightened his collar and asked his wife and relatives, Do I look like a benevolent father-in-law? Leo White's mouth twitched hard. He couldn't help but roast. No, who are you fooling with this last-minute act? A crowd of elders glared at him like daggers. Then, everyone maintained the most benevolent, gentlest smiles, and walked towards you excitedly. You and Chloe and the others originally thought the people outside were here to back up the Song family. Elder White approached, his eyes red. Hello, son-in-law, I am your wife. No, wait, I am my daughter's son. No, I am my daughter's. The more he spoke, the more excited he got, and the more mistakes he made. Finally, he just shoved a car key into your hand. Son-in-law, you take this first. This is the kulanen I bought to honor you. Wait, no! Son-in-law, just take the gift. I'm gonna go calm down. After saying that, Elder White turned around and started slapping his own mouth. Game over. First time meeting the son-in-law, and my image is completely ruined by nerves. Madam White was much calmer than her husband. She looked at you with a beaming smile, and her opening line was, Jack, do you like eating small seafood? You asked in astonishment. Auntie, what do you mean? Madam White narrowed her eyes, smiling with infinite benevolence. If you like eating seafood, then I'll buy you an Ocean View castle tomorrow and casually custom order a few yachts, paired with 30 to 50 professional chefs. An Ocean View castle? Multiple yachts? Isn't that a bit too insanely rich? Seeing your hesitation, Leo White wiped the drool from the corner of his mouth, leaned in, grabbed your shoulder and mumbled, Future uncle-in-law, my grandma is a shipbuilding tycoon. You must accept what she gives. Even if we don't eat seafood, taking bikini babes out for a spin is great too. What answered him was a loud smack. Bai Ching-feng mercilessly slapped his son's head, saying with a dark face, Don't corrupt your future uncle-in-law. Leo White cried, anime tears leaning into your chest. Awoo, it hurts! Future uncle-in-law, save me! Bai Ching-feng's wife quickly tugged her husband's shirt corner. It's your first time meeting your brother-in-law. Mind your image, reminded. Bai Ching-feng quickly pulled out a stack of bank cards and presented them to you. Hello, future brother-in-law. I am Bai Ching-feng, Leo's dad, and Chloe's eldest brother. Which of these banks do you like? I'll give you one. Cough, cough, cough. You almost choked to death on your own saliva. The way the White family gave gifts, you didn't know what to do for a moment. Left with no choice, you could only look back at Chloe, hoping she would help you out. Who knew Chloe would actually say, I'll arrange a financial butler later, log everything they give you, and I'll find a professional to manage it for you. The Song family members who followed you out were now completely dumbfounded. Old Madam Song almost fainted. She had to be supported by police officers just to go back inside and rest. The police officers here had clearly grasped the situation. The chief walked over, rubbed his nose, and gave you a sycophantic smile. Jack, you see, nothing major really happened here. Why don't we let everyone disperse for today? If this keeps up, our police station will be trending tomorrow, and I'll get disciplined. Please, give me some face first. Leo White spoke up to remind, Auntie, Grandpa, Grandma, why don't we retreat first? My uncle-in-law works in showbiz. If he really ends up trending, it won't be good for him either. Seeing you nod in agreement, Chloe finally signaled the family elders with her eyes. So in less than 10 minutes, the helicopters and everything surrounding the station vanished. Seeing the White family's efficiency, even the police officers were somewhat shocked. After Elder White and the others got in their cars, the mastermind behind this incident, Frank, actually came out. He smiled at you with malicious intent. No wonder. How do you suddenly have big shots supporting you? Sitting in the car, Little Puff saw Frank. She crossed her arms and said angrily, Mommy, if I break one of his legs, will it cause trouble for Daddy? Chloe's gaze turned slightly cold. It's not appropriate for you to do this kind of thing. Murder and arson, she would do it for them. Outside, you looked at Frank and sneered twice. Were you talking to me? Your utterly dismissive attitude towards Frank made him even more furious. He didn't care about anything anymore, and his voice turned shrill as he started cursing. You are a total disgrace. Do you think just because the White family is protecting you, I really don't dare to do anything to you? Let me tell you, stop being so smug. Mom and Dad already look down on a piece of trash like you. Linda is also dead set on me. Everything you have, I can take it all. You held up your phone, speaking lazily. Frank, aren't you running for outstanding youth? What a shame. My phone just happens to be live streaming. Frank, who was just acting all high and mighty, turned a ghastly shade of gray upon hearing this. In the end, he could only swallow his anger, turn around, and leave. The next morning, the servants brought in mutton buns, mutton soup, plus sea cucumbers and oysters. Is it really okay to eat this richly first thing in the morning? You were a bit hesitant to even pick up your chopsticks. Only Leo White, looking like he understood everything, was covering his mouth and laughing. Daddy, hurry and eat the mutton buns. They are super yummy, Little Grape said, holding up a small mutton bun and handing it to you. However, you were somewhat hesitant. Eating so heavily early in the morning didn't seem very conducive to fitness. Seeing you not eating, Little Grape frowned, quickly took a bite of the bun, tasted it, and then said seriously to Chloe, what do I do, Mommy? I'm just a kid, I can't taste the flavor. You try one. Chloe didn't know what her daughter was plotting, but she cooperatively picked up a bun and took a small bite. It's not bad. Seeing this, Little Grape Pitter pattered over to Chloe, took the bun from her hand, then turned around and came to you again. She stood on her tiptoes and brought the small bun to your lips, saying very seriously, Daddy, Mommy has tasted it. You try it too. You looked at the bun Chloe had bitten into, slightly stunned. Daddy, do you dislike us? Dislike my mommy? Is that why you don't want to eat it? Little Grape's expression suddenly turned sad. How could you bear to see her like this? You immediately crouched down, took the little bun, and rubbed her little head again. Grape, sweetie, don't be sad. Uncle will eat it right now. Then, under Little Grape's hopeful gaze, you took a big bite of the bun and tasted it earnestly. Daddy, is the bun yummy? Little Grape asked seriously. You nodded. Very delicious. Yay! Little Grape held her face, spinning in circles happily in front of you. Then she looked back at Little Puff. Sister! Daddy says the bun Mommy bit is very yummy. Little Puff stroked her chin, suddenly acting like a little adult, nodding seriously and saying, Of course the bun Mommy bit is delicious. But since Daddy ate the bun Mommy ate, doesn't that mean he kissed Mommy? The teacher at kindergarten said, if a boy and a girl kiss, they'll have a baby. As she spoke, Little Puff's eyes fell on Chloe's stomach. Then she happily clapped her hands. Mommy! Congratulations, you're going to have Daddy's baby. As for Little Cherry and Little Mochi, they had already stationed themselves on either side of you. Little Cherry said happily, Daddy, do you prefer a baby boy or a baby girl? What kind of name do you like? I'll find a master to calculate a good fortune for them. Okay. Don't worry, Daddy. We'll take good care of our younger brother or sister in the future. We are babies too. We have experience. Cough, cough, cough. You were made to cough repeatedly by the little baby's serious demeanor. You quickly explained, babies. Kissing doesn't make you pregnant. Little Puff tilted her head, her expression very serious. Then how do you get pregnant? You have to sleep together. Leo White has explained for you. Little Puff's expression became even cuter. But Daddy and Mommy have slept together several times. Does that mean Mommy has several babies in her tummy now? Hearing this, Leo White quickly raised his hand and covered Little Puff's mouth. After breakfast, you arrived at the set. Director Watts and the others were discussing the launch press conference. The lead actress, Tiffany, started acting like a diva. Because my new boyfriend is very possessive, I feel I can't be in the same shot as the male lead. Is it okay if I'm grouped with the female artists? When she said this, several other female artists on set also nodded and grouped together. You thought to yourself secretly, what a bunch of idiots. Meanwhile, Linda was a bit distracted. She thought about Frank going out to fool around last night. He clearly said he'd keep himself clean. Why was he hanging out with those sugar mamas? Looking at you now, she started having little schemes in her head. She pretended to feel unwell, gave you a final glance, and then turned to go to the restroom. Hey, why don't you go check on Linda? The assistant director noticed Linda's final glance and directed you. Everyone else stared at you too, especially Tiffany, who said sarcastically, Could it be you still hold a grudge against your ex-girlfriend? So you're scared to go? Even if a stranger wasn't feeling well, you should still show some concern, right? Honestly, a grown man being this petty. With her taking the lead, the others also started gossiping. Seeing them getting more and more out of line, Director Watts stepped in as a peacemaker. He came over and told you, why don't you go check the situation? Represent the crew in showing concern. Since even the director said so, you had no choice but to go find Linda. However, you kept an ace up your sleeve, putting a voice recorder in your pocket. But just as you arrived near the dressing rooms, you heard strange noises inside. Linda stood tearfully in front of the veteran actor Larry. Larry, I'm so pitiful. Can't you show me some affection, please? Her slender arms made Larry lose focus, staring at her foolishly. Taking the opportunity, Linda leaned into Larry's embrace. Larry, do you really not like me? Larry, I want it. Larry was still a bit hesitant. This was the set. What if someone found out? Who would dare talk about you, Larry? You are the most respected person on our crew. Saying this, Linda had already offered her kiss. Larry was the president of the acting association in the industry, capable of guaranteeing nominations for many awards. You originally had no interest in eavesdropping, but realizing Linda's target was Larry, you suddenly became interested in recording. Because this seemingly righteous president actually taken advantage of many female college student extras in private. After recording for a minute, Larry finished. You didn't keep listening either, turning and heading to another dressing room. However, what surprised everyone was that at this moment, a woman aggressively stormed onto the set with people in tow. Where's Larry? Tell Larry to get his butt out here right now! The woman's hair was messy, and she even had several reporters trailing behind her. The reporters were thrilled because this woman was Larry's wife, Quinn. Quinn was the only daughter of the richest man in Xiang City. She used to be an international superstar, but retired to be a housewife for Larry, completely losing herself. People in the industry envied Larry's good luck for making such a woman submit to him, but no one knew that Larry had already driven Quinn to the brink of insanity. Today it was also a hidden camera Quinn installed at Larry's place that triggered an alert, hinting that Larry was messing around with another woman, which is how she found out. Seeing it was Quinn, Director Watts quickly went up and said in a placating tone, "Quinn, what brings you here?" Quinn's eyes were red, and she growled angrily, "I'm looking for Larry." Saying that, she led the reporters straight into the dressing room, and Linda just happened to walk out. Seeing Larry's familiar post-coital cigarette habit, Quinn lunged at him like a madwoman. Grabbing his collar, she questioned furiously, "Who were you in there with just now? Speak! Who were you with?" Larry felt guilty. His eyes darting, he stamped out his cigarette. "Honey, what are you talking about? I don't understand. I installed a hidden camera on your phone. You just slept with someone in here, didn't you?" Quinn was so angry she could die. Larry was deeply shocked. But he knew whatever he said right now, he couldn't admit it. Just as he was panicking, he looked up and saw you. A malicious glint flashed in his eyes. Raising a finger to point at you, he quickly said to Quinn, "Honey, you got it wrong. The noise you heard was Jack and Linda. Say that one more bleeping time." Quinn, however, suddenly became less agitated, turning to look at you instead. "Is my husband telling the truth? Was it you and Linda?" You took out the voice recorder. Just as you were about to prove your innocence, Linda suddenly hugged your arm. With tears in her eyes, she leaned into your ear and whispered, "You must admit it. Otherwise, the baby sister Quinn is carrying won't survive. You've always been a good man. You can't just watch a pitiful woman get hurt, right?" After saying that, Linda immediately turned to look at Quinn, speaking in a wronged and conflicted tone. "Sister Quinn, Jack and I grew up together. We just couldn't control our feelings when we were together. Please don't misunderstand, Larry." The veins on your forehead bulged. "Miss Quinn, I can prove it wasn't me just now, but let's move to a different environment to talk," you said calmly. Since Quinn was pregnant, it was best to discuss this at a hospital. If there were any issues, having a doctor around would be best. But at this moment, Larry stealthily gave Quinn a push. Quinn's body fell towards the corner of a table. This vicious bump hit her stomach directly. Almost in the blink of an eye, Quinn started bleeding profusely between her legs. Seeing this, you quickly supported Quinn and yelled to the crew, "What are you standing there for? Call an ambulance!" But right after you spoke, Larry forcefully pushed you away, hugging Quinn tightly in his arms. You bastard! Why did you push my wife just now? If you have a problem with me, just say it. Why drag my wife into this?" You laughed out of anger. "Screw this. You were standing right there ready to explain, and this bastard pushed his own wife, only to turn around and frame you." But you quickly calmed down, glanced at Director Watts and said, "Director, we'll talk about today's events later. Let's get Miss Quinn to the hospital first." Meanwhile, at the kindergarten, little Puff, wearing a cold expression, carried her little backpack and prepared to leave. But the teacher walked over, held her hand and said, "Puff baby, you must come to Family Day, okay?" Before, Puff and the girls had never participated in these events. They just thought it was childish and boring. But now the teacher pulled out a promotional card and started tempting her. "This is a record of your growth accompanied by your mommy and daddy. It's very meaningful." The four little girls thought, "Meaningful to daddy? Then we definitely have to attend." So the usually aloof little Puff nodded. "Okay, we will bring our daddy and mommy together." The teacher breathed a sigh of relief. Just as she was about to explain the requirements, Samyeon rushed over in a panic to find little Puff. The person whispered something in little Puff's ear. The already chilly little cutie now had a face looking like a cosmic storm. "Cherry, contact Brother Leo. We are going to Capital First Hospital right now." Saying that, little Puff threw her cartoonish little backpack to a bodyguard. Radiating an overpowering aura, she marched toward the kindergarten gates. "If we don't show our teeth, do they think we're just little kittens?" As for Chloe, the bodyguards protecting the little girls had already reported the situation. Chloe, who was originally in a meeting, put down the documents in her hand. "Today's meeting ends here. Go back and prepare the follow-up plans." After speaking, she strode out. Outside the hospital entrance, little Puff took off her kindergarten coat. Looking at her sisters, they each took out pink designer collaboration hanfu dresses, and very seriously changed into them inside the car, before stepping out holding hands. Little Puff looked at the restless reporters in the distance and told her sisters with a serious expression, "Remember, in front of Daddy, we are well-behaved beauties. We must control our helves." Little Grape was the first to nod in response. "I absolutely won't blow those bad guys' heads off. I'll just dislocate one of their arms." Little Cherry shook her head. "No, that's too violent. It'll scare Daddy." Little Grape, "Then what's your plan?" Little Cherry stroked her chin, pondered for a moment, and mused. Grandpa said, "If people don't mess with us, we don't mess with them. But if they mess with us, we have to beat them so bad even their own mothers won't recognize them. So, dealing with those bad guys, of course we should invite their mothers over. And after beating them up, let their mothers see if they can still recognize them. Little Mochi nodded. That's much more polite. Daddy should like polite kids. In the hospital corridor, you, Director Watts, and the others were waiting for news from the operating room. Linda stood beside Larry, gently consoling him. Larry, don't worry. Your reputation will definitely be safe. No one will be able to do anything to us. These words were meant to remind Larry that he had absolutely nothing to fear from you, because you had no evidence. Listening to Linda's words, you sneered internally. The evidence in your hand could be played for them at any moment. It's just that you weren't as utterly lacking in morals as they were, able to turn a blind eye while Quinn was in emergency surgery. Right at that moment, the operating room doors opened. A doctor with a complex expression held out a consent form to Larry. Mr. Liang, your wife's condition is very bad. Right now the child cannot be saved, and it's highly likely her uterus cannot be saved either. What do you think? Should we take care of the child first, and then try to see if we can save the adult? Everyone looked at Larry. They thought Larry would choose to save the adult. But who knew he would say, I'm in my 40s, and my wife finally got pregnant. We can't lose this child. I don't care what method you use. I want the child saved. As soon as he said this, everyone present widened their eyes. Was this guy serious? Didn't he hear what the doctor said? They couldn't even save the adult. How could they save the child? Mr. Lang, the situation is not good at all, unless you can currently find the top divine doctor family in the country. No one can save your wife. The doctor was speechless too, so he just told the truth. You must prioritize the adult. Otherwise, your wife will certainly die. Actually, Larry wanted Quinn to die. That way he could inherit her entire fortune. But he didn't want to be the bad guy, so his gaze fell on you again. Summoning all his acting skills, he grabbed your collar and said angrily, It's all your fault. It's you. You bastard. You killed my wife. If my wife dies now, I won't want to live either. Seeing Larry treat you this way, Linda sneered internally. Larry was so despicable, he definitely wouldn't let you off. You wouldn't have a good ending today. At this moment, you squinted calmly. Even though Larry was gripping your collar, you didn't look the least bit stressed or angry. A faint smile rippled at the corners of your mouth as you spoke indifferently. Your wife won't die. Give me a few minutes. I'll make a phone call. Good thing I have some capable medical friends. Hearing this, Larry laughed out of anger. You say my wife won't die, so she won't die? You're just a bleeping extra. Who could you possibly know? Can you summon someone from the Divine Doctor sect? Larry sneered coldly. If you can find someone to cure my wife right now, I can forgive you for pushing her, but if you can't, I'll make sure you die a very rhythmic death. This threat was incredibly heavy. Director Watts was also a bit worried. He came over, helped you pull away from Larry, and whispered, Why don't you go find the White family princesses? Maybe they can help. However, you patted Director Watts on the shoulder, took your phone, and walked toward the stairwell. Just as you left to make the call, the four little girls anxiously walked out of the elevator. Little Puff scanned the surroundings, then stared at Director Watts with a serious expression. Where is our daddy, little miss? He went to make a phone call to find a doctor for Quinn, Director Watts explained concisely. Hearing this, Little Puff nodded and said very confidently, If our daddy takes action, there's nothing he can't do. Little Grape also nodded along. Yep, our daddy is the best in the world. Linda had already found the four little girls very annoying the last time she saw them. Now seeing that you weren't around, she walked over and started mocking them sarcastically. Little kids, why would you come to the hospital? I know, your daddy is poor, and he's afraid Larry will make him pay compensation later, so he brought you here to act as collateral for the emergency. So pitiful. You guys really don't know how to be reincarnated well, actually ending up with a daddy like him. Hearing this, Little Puff's pink little face was instantly covered in frost. But she turned to Director Watts and asked in the most innocent, naive tone, Uncle Director, it's so strange. Why are dogs barking in the hospital? Won't it disturb the patients? The other three babies played along with Little Puff adorably. Yeah, the patients here are suffering so much. They shouldn't be disturbed by a dog. Little Grape took out her little phone. I'm calling the policito, have the dog-catching uncle come over. Little Cherry walked over to a janitor nearby. Auntie, I'm afraid the dog will make a stinky poo. Please help us chase the dog away quickly. And little Mochi pinched her nose, shaking her head adorably. Plus, this is a stray dog! So scary! Their serious demeanor left the janitor, who had no idea what was going on, stunned for a good while. At this moment, the entire hospital corridor was quiet for 2 seconds. Then, Tiffany and the others couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. These kids are so funny. I almost believed there was an actual dog in the hospital just now. What kind of karma does Linda have? To have kids call her a dog. There are reporters over there. If this gets out, Linda will definitely be trending tomorrow. Trending for being a dog. I'm dying of laughter. She wanted to bully the four little girls, but ended up getting slapped in the face instead. Linda felt her face burning with pain. She glared viciously at the four little girls, cursed fatherless brats in her heart, and then looked at Larry, urging him with her eyes to quickly cause trouble. Sure enough, Larry understood her meaning. He deliberately said to the four little girls, Your daddy did a bad thing. He likes to show off and brag so much. You shouldn't be his daughters, and you definitely shouldn't believe he has the ability to raise you. The 4 little girls were now crossing their arms, staring at Larry with dissatisfaction, not saying a word. Anyone who knew the little girls knew that once they fell silent, Samyun was about to suffer terribly. Kids, the people here are all witnesses. I've already given your daddy many chances, but he bullied me, bullied my wife. I only fought back because I was forced to. It's not me using my power to bully others. Saying that, Larry paused, then sneered deliberately. You kids, you better go back and find your mom, and tell her to break up with Jack and find a rich man to be your dad instead. Thinking about the little girl's mother, Linda rolled her eyes and said intentionally, they probably don't even have a mom. They're just little mistakes he made. So pitiful, stuck with a dad like that at such a young age. They went back and forth, clearly just wanting to see the little babies cry. This behavior, in the eyes of others, was simply low and despicable. But Director Watts was already internally lighting candle after candle for them. Idiots. You've really messed with people you shouldn't mess with. Meanwhile, outside the hospital entrance, just as Chloe got out of the car, Sun Mo had already handed her an iPad connected to the hospital's security cameras. Boss, Larry is bullying the young missus. Chloe's footsteps paused. She looked up at the sky. Sun Mo was stunned for a moment. Wait, it's the middle of summer. It's almost 40 degrees Celsius. Why is it getting chilly? Seeing he didn't understand, Chloe said with eyes like a frozen tundra, Larry can retire from the entertainment industry. Sun Mo showed an expression of sudden realization and immediately nodded. Understood, I will release all of Larry's dark secrets right now. I guarantee he'll be cancelled by tonight. Chloe nodded. Also check if he's broken any laws. If he has, he can go step on a sewing machine in prison. Back inside, you came over immediately after finishing your call. Seeing the 4 little girls had also arrived, you were a bit surprised. Babies, why are you here? The 4 little babies immediately hid their earlier sharp edges. They raised their lotus root-like little arms in unison and waved at you. Little Puff, we came to back Daddy up. Little Grape, don't worry, Daddy. I can carry a big watermelon now. I'm very strong. Whoever dares hit you, I'll blow their head off. Little Cherry Daddy, I just graduated from Wing Chun training class. I'm super strong. I can be your bodyguard. Little Mochi, however, stood in front of you, looking at everyone with a serious expression. Uncles and aunties, when we get angry, we can be very, very fierce, so you cannot bully our daddy. Otherwise, you won't have a good ending. Hearing the little babies say this, Larry burst out laughing. Dragons beget dragons. Phoenixes beget phoenixes. A show-off like you raises kids who are also show-offs. Ha 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 ha. I'm dying of laughter. Aren't you embarrassed? If I were you, I would have found a block of tofu to smash my head against a long time ago. Several of Larry's cronies also chimed in laughing. Not gonna lie, these 4 little brats are just like you. Dirt poor yet pretending to be little princesses. Ha 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 ha. Their mom is probably a bar hostess. Otherwise, how could she give birth to such stupid kids? Linda, thinking about the people you hung out with 5 years ago, also felt it was impossible for you to have kids with any decent person. Didn't you go make a phone call? How did it go? Did it go through? After laughing, Larry purposely walked over, his tone heavier. My wife is inside hovering between life and death. If the person you invited doesn't show up, then you'll pay with your life for my wife's. At this exact moment, the elevator dinged. Out walked a man wearing ripped jeans, a tank top, and holding a green tong popsicle in his mouth. He looked like a complete punk, but was still very handsome. Quite a few young nurses had their eyes glued to him. Seeing him, you unhurriedly greeted him. Old 7, time no see. Dr. Ben suddenly saw the 4 little girls behind you, and his eyes lit up. Little Lolatas, you actually hid 4 such cute little Lolatas. But just as he was walking over to talk to you, he was stopped by Larry. Who are you? Don't tell me. Jack asked you to perform surgery on my wife. Larry's face darkened. Dr. Ben gave Larry a cold, indifferent glance before saying to you, is the patient in the operating room? You nodded. Seeing this, Larry completely exploded. Through gritted teeth, he said, Great, you're actually getting this kind of trash to treat my wife. Look at what he's wearing. Your face turned cold, your tone heavy. Just because he doesn't dress well means he can't be a doctor. Your logic is truly touching. Larry, you keep blocking them from treating your wife. Is it because you're afraid she might survive? You stop sowing discord. I love my wife the most. Larry was actually angry because you saw through his thoughts. Right now, he really just wanted to see Quinn die on the operating table. Thinking quickly, he shot a glance at his assistant behind him. Understanding his meaning, the assistant immediately ran towards the operating room to drag the doctors inside out. Then he yelled dramatically, Doctor, hurry up and tell them to get out. They're trying to kill our sister Quinn like this. Saying that, he even roared at you. You got a lot of nerve, bringing in these random shady people. Just wait for the lawsuit. You coldly watched Larry's assistant, jumping up and down, a flash of frost in your eyes. Show some respect. He is the young master of the Divine Doctor sect. As soon as this was said, Larry was the first to laugh loudly. Ha 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 ha. Someone from the Divine Doctor sect would dress like this and would know you? The others also burst into laughter. Earlier I thought you were really capable. Now looking at it, you're still just faking it. Don't you dare doubt my daddy. Seeing them doubting you, Little Puff instantly crossed her arms and bristled with anger. Seeing Little Puff defending you like this, Dr. Ben raised an eyebrow slightly. Not bad. His bro Jack's daughter was great. Not only cute, but she knew how to protect her dad. You rubbed Puff's head to comfort her first, then raised an eyebrow, looking at the doctor behind you. You take a look. Is he from the Divine Doctor sect? Every doctor above the director level at this hospital had received training at the Divine Doctor sect. They would naturally know the young master. That's why you specifically asked the doctor. Sure enough, the doctor, who was a bit confused earlier, was now looking at Dr. Ben with a face full of shock. He quickly bowed, smiling sycophantically. So it's the young master visiting our hospital. Welcome, welcome. Hearing this, Larry, who was just mocking you, swept his hand, shivering as he stumbled back 2 steps. He gritted his teeth, looking at you in absolute shock. How is this possible? How could you find someone from the Divine Doctor sect? But what shocked him even more was what Dr. Ben said next. I've got the general idea of the situation. Prepare the blood plasma. I can save both the adult and her uteruses. That's impossible, Larry shouted, then realized he had slipped up and quickly covered his mouth. Dr. Ben gave him a deep look, then said to you, Bro Jack, the surgery will take 2 hours. Take the babies to a comfortable lounge and wait for me. You nodded. Thanks. What are you being polite for? If it weren't for the fact that you didn't want to study medicine, our Divine Doctor sect would belong to you by now. Dr. Ben smiled with admiration. If I only had your IQ, I wouldn't get beaten by my master every day. After saying that, he followed the doctors and nurses to change into scrubs. When Dr. Ben and the group of medical staff entered the operating room, Larry still felt like he was in a dream. How is this possible? And the people around slowly recovered from their shock as well. Larry was still a bit worried, but he was unwilling to let you get the upper hand. Turning his head and seeing Linda, he birthed another malicious idea. Larry sneered and said to you, so what if you have connections? The things you and Linda did. Tomorrow you'll be condemned by everyone on the internet. He did what things? Suddenly, a cold, sharp voice rang out. Everyone fell silent, looking with complex expressions at the source of the voice. Seeing it was Chloe White, Larry breathed a sigh of relief. He immediately went up to her, pretending to be very pitiful. Miss White, it's so good you're here. My wife was almost killed by this bastard Jack. You must help me blacklist him. Expose the scandal between him and Linda, ruin his reputation entirely. Who are you calling a bastard? Hearing Lizzie's words, Chloe's face was even colder than before. Larry hadn't understood Chloe's meaning yet. He thought the White family and the Chi family had a good relationship, so Chloe would definitely help Quinn, which meant helping him. As long as he exaggerated things a bit more, Chloe would definitely ruthlessly punish you for him. You were stunned, completely not expecting Chloe to appear, and especially not expecting her to appear when you were caught in this messy scandal. You felt a bit awkward, but still braced yourself and walked over to explain to Chloe. Miss White, there's a misunderstanding. I can prove my innocence. Chloe's expression remained emotionless. She naturally believed you, but Larry and these people were truly looking for death. Seeing that you actually dared to go over and talk to Chloe, Larry instantly got upset. He rushed over and said, You stop trying to seduce Ms. White with your looks. Who do you think you are? Ms. White would never fall for someone like you. Standing nearby, Sun Mo's mouth twitched. Bro, go look in a mirror, okay? With that face of yours, if our boss liked you, it'd be a miracle. And besides, you're not the boss. How do you know our boss doesn't fall for his looks? At this moment, Larry was rambling on, trying to prove himself to Chloe, even starting to cry. Mrs. White, you've seen how loving Quinn and I are. Now Quinn is in there and might not survive. Wah! Then I don't want to live anymore. What's the point of living like this? After saying that, he even sneaked glances at Chloe through narrowed eyes. He thought to himself, I'm playing the role of a loving, devoted husband right now. Any woman would be moved. Chloe just said one sentence coldly. Fine then, you go die. Donate your organs. Larry was completely dumbfounded. He pointed a finger at his own face. Miss White, did you say you meaning me? How is it possible? Why would Chloe Clay tell a devoted man like him to die? The others also couldn't snap back to reality for a moment. After all, those who knew that the White and Chi families had a good relationship. Shouldn't Chloe take care of Larry no matter what? Wait, Ms. White must mean she wants Jack to die. After filling in the blanks himself, Larry quickly turned back to you, roaring furiously. Why are you so blind? Ms. White told you to die. Why are you still? Your mouth twitched. You looked at Larry as if looking at an idiot, and Sun Mo, the assistant, really couldn't watch this anymore. He took a few steps forward and said to Larry, Mr. Liang, you misunderstood. Our boss means she wants a bastard like you to go die. As soon as this was said, Larry was completely stunned. When he snapped back to reality, his face was pale. Then he looked tremblingly at Chloe, probing cautiously. Ms. White, you guys are joking, right? Chloe completely ignored Larry, looking at you instead. Because there were reporters around, she didn't want you trending because of her relationship with you. So she used a seemingly cold tone to ask you. You said earlier you had a way to prove it? Seeing their mommy suddenly acting so cold towards you, the 4 little girls instantly got unhappy. Little Puff gave her dear mommy a dark look. She opened her little mouth to say something, but was interrupted by Linda. Linda deliberately twisted her body, showing off her proud figure, and started questioning, Are you really Ms. White? She remembered that when she saw Chloe earlier, Chloe was clearly leaning on you. This definitely couldn't be the female head of the White family. Almost instantly, Linda concluded that Chloe was an actress hired to help you trick them. Spit it out. How much did he pay you to pretend to be Miss White? Linda demanded. Chloe didn't get angry. Instead, she laughed. Her slightly curved lips made her look even more dangerous. A brain is a wonderful thing to have. Why don't you have one? How dare you insult me? Saying that, Linda tried to lay her hands on Chloe, but Chloe didn't hold back. She stepped forward and directly locked Linda's arm. Snap! Ah! Linda screamed, fainting directly from the pain. The others watched as Chloe casually clapped her hands and said to Sunmo beside her, "Send her to get her bone set. If they don't set it right, that's fine too." Sunmo almost knelt down to his boss. Seeing this, Larry couldn't help but rub his own arm. Although he couldn't touch Chloe, he could start with you. Thinking this, he openly threatened you right in front of Chloe. We're both in the same circle. You should understand what I mean, right? Here Larry was already implying a threat. He was a thug in the entertainment industry, and a thug like him had no class whatsoever. Looking at Larry's demeanor, you were surprisingly calm, not afraid at all. Seeing you not taking the bait, Larry narrowed his eyes and simply shifted his gazebo the little girls nearby. Acting like a big bad wolf with a red string, he laughed wickedly. Babies, hurry and persuade your daddy. After all, your daddy needs me. Little Puff nodded seriously. Okay, I will definitely persuade our daddy. Larry nodded in satisfaction. He thought to himself, your daughter is quite sensible. Daughters, after all, are softer and more obedient. However, the next second, everyone watched as Little Puff tugged on your pant leg, using the cutest, most innocent tone to say, Daddy, I don't want your hands to hurt. So, later, you should use that fire extinguisher to hit him. Also, he makes a living with his face in showbiz. Just aim for his nose first, and smash his face in. Don't worry about scaring the babies. We graduated with a major in getting scared. No matter how bloody the scene is, we aren't afraid. Larry's eyes went wide. Wait, he wanted this little girl to persuade you to settle. Is this what she calls persuading? Whose kid just suggests beating someone up right off the bat? What the hell is in this little girl's head? And this familiar violent aura, how is it possible? Larry instinctively glanced at Chloe, but then he shook his head. Impossible. Impossible. Wealthy families care about social status. You have nothing. Chloe White isn't that stupid. While Larry was thinking, he saw little Mochi pull a medium-sized projector out of her small backpack. With highly professional movements, she turned it on, put on a pair of Detective Conan glasses, and suddenly said super professionally and seriously, Daddy, if you have evidence, give it to me. I'll play it for you. There are so many uncles and aunties here, they'll definitely love it. Larry's heart skipped a beat. How does this kid know how to use a projector? And she knows how to serve up the gossip for everyone. But what shocked him even more was Little Grape. Looking like a super soft and sweet cutie, she actually pulled small red envelopes out of her backpack. Then she walked towards the media reporters, handing out the red envelopes while saying in a super adorable tone, Uncles and aunties, I am a little badger in the melon field, eating gossip every day. Follow me, and I guarantee you'll get the headline. Larry was dumbfounded. How old is this kid? How does she already understand the unwritten rules of showbiz, even giving reporters red envelopes? The reporters just assumed Little Grape was giving them trading cards or something in the envelopes. Who would have known that when one of them opened it, they actually received a check? Every single check had 88,888 written on it. The reporters were all shocked, looking down at Little Grape. But Little Grape crossed her arms and said somewhat smugly, Uncles and aunties, don't be too surprised. To our daddy, this is just small change, a drop in the bucket. If you uncles and aunties don't accept it, then you're not giving us face. We will be very sad and upset. We'll draw circles and curse you to work 29 days a month and find only seasoning packets inside your instant noodles. With this cute and adorable threat, the reporters' hearts all melted. Who could possibly say no to that? We can get ready to spill the tea now, Little Grape said, turning back to wink at you. The little girl's maneuvers long since made you melt with their cuteness, so you handed the prepared voice recorder to Little Cherry. But before playing it, you told them very seriously, Babies, the stuff in the recording is not suitable for children, so you must cover your ears and not listen, okay? The four little girls all nodded. Yep, we won't listen, but the people outside must listen. All the fans on the internet need to hear it. Chloe, standing over there, had long seen through her daughter's routine. Before Little Cherry was about to hit play, she had already connected the voice recorder to the projector's sound system. Then, right as the elevator doors nearby opened, she pressed play. Larry didn't know what was in the voice recorder, so he panicked even more. He trembled as he said to you, It better not be anything bad for me in there. Otherwise I'll make sure you die a horrible death. With this old man here, I'd like to see who will make you die. Suddenly, a deep, sharp voice rang out. When Larry turned his head, half of his soul nearly left his body out of pure terror. He didn't even care about threatening you anymore. He immediately wagged his tail, smiling sycophantically. Father-in-law, you're here! Quinn is inside having surgery, and I'm out here trying to catch the bad guy who hurt her. You have to believe me, I love Quinn very much. Slap. Elder Chi didn't waste any words, first slapping Larry across the face. Then he nodded to Chloe. Chloe, don't worry. Whatever you have, just play it. This old man will not wrong a good person, but I will absolutely not let a villain off the hook either. Hearing this, Larry's legs started shaking. At this moment, Chloe exchanged a look with you and directly turned on the voice recorder. You signaled Sun Mo and the others to cover the little girl's ears first. Next, the sound of a man and a woman echoed in the hospital corridor. Larry, you really still got it. I love it so much. You like it? Then I'll love you a little harder. Love me, love me. The voices of the man and woman were extremely clear, and exactly who was having an illicit affair with whom was also blatantly obvious. The surrounding reporters silently tucked away those big red envelopes first, then collectively stared at Larry. This tea is piping hot. Who would have thought? The famous righteous gentleman of the industry, the model-loving husband, was actually doing this kind of thing. Facing the reporters' discussions, Larry was already sweating profusely. He turned his head to glare at you. Good, very good. Since you're doing this to me, then don't blame me for exposing that time you and a woman. Slap! At this moment, Elder Chi slapped Larry across the face. He was trembling all over with rage. Good, very good. Larry, you bastard, you dare treat my daughter this way. While she was pregnant with your child, you actually dared to cheat on her. Please calm down first. Quinn is still in surgery. If she comes out and doesn't see me, she'll be sad for me. Do you want her to be without a husband? Plus, there are so many people here. We shouldn't air our dirty laundry. Larry figured the Chi family cared about their reputation and wouldn't make a huge scene out of this, but at this moment, Elder Chi turned to look at Chloe. Chloe, how do you think we should handle this? Chloe's expression was cold and aloof as she looked at you, saying, Larry retires from the entertainment industry, divorces Quinn, then we chop off both his legs and throw him in Ethiopia. Larry was already terrified by Chloe's method of handling things, his face pale. He knew if someone else said it, Elder Chi might hesitate a bit. But Chloe was different. Larry was completely terrified now. He didn't dare to act out anymore. With a thud, he knelt directly in front of you. I apologize to you. I'll go clarify things to everyone. It was me who wanted to be with Linda. I'll quit the movie too, okay? I just beg you to ask Ms. White to spare me. I'll do whatever you want. You took a step back, looking deeply at the reporters over there. Seeing this, Larry's quickly turned around. Facing the reporters' cameras, he trembled and said, The recording is correct. It was me who had a relationship with Linda. Everyone, please don't misunderstand Jack. As soon as he finished speaking, Chloe asked, Why did Quinn miscarry? Explain it clearly. Otherwise, what she lost was a child, but what you lose will be your manhood. Everyone felt a chill between their legs, as expected of Chloe White. Larry stuttered for a long time, unable to utter a complete sentence. Elder Chi now understood everything. I see. You did it on purpose. You wanted to watch Quinn die. No, it's not. At that time. Larry wanted to explain, but he couldn't even form a coherent sentence. At that time what? Elder Chi simply didn't believe a single good word could come out of this man's mouth anymore. Right at that moment, the operating room doors opened. Dr. Ben led the nurses out with the hospital bed. Quinn, who was out of danger and awake, lay there with a pale face. Honey, hurry up and save me. Dad says he's going to kill me. Larry didn't care about Quinn's health at all, instead asking her to save him first. And you, standing to the side, first asked Dr. Ben, Did it go smoothly? With me taking action, of course there's no problem. If she wants to find a good man and have kids in the future, it won't be a problem either. Dr. Ben smiled. After Quinn snapped back to reality, she said to Elder Chi, I owe Jack a favor. I hope our Chi family can repay him in the future. As for Larry, I want a divorce. Dad will arrange it for you. Elder Chi nodded. Then he turned to look at the surrounding reporters. Why don't you all come to the lobby and be my witnesses? He was going to deal with Larry publicly. With the situation handled to this extent, Chloe knew it wasn't suitable for you to stay with them anymore. So she looked at you and said softly, Let's go. You nodded slightly. Once outside the hospital doors, Dr. Ben resumed his punkish demeanor. He directly threw his arm around your shoulder and teased, When did you and Chloe White hook up? You didn't even tell me. Look at me, coming here empty-handed. Didn't even bring a gift for my sister-in-law. Your face was full of dark lines. Can this guy stop using the wrong words? However, Chloe was pleased by the word sister-in-law. She shot a glance at Sun Mo and took out a bank card. Sun Mo immediately understood his boss's meaning. Holding the bank card with both hands, he presented it to Dr. Ben. I heard the Divine Doctor sect has a medical relief foundation project looking for investors. This is our boss's sincerity, Sun Mo explained. Dr. Ben's eyes completely lit up. He grinned and said, Thank you, Ms. White. Ms. White's great kindness cannot be repaid with words. I can only have my brother offer himself in marriage. Saying that, he directly pushed you over. Don't hold back on my account. Eat him however you want. He has great stamina. 7 or 8 times a night is no problem. You were speechless. What kind of friends have I made? And Chloe remained calm on the surface, but her cheeks were actually burning hot. And he can give you sons too, Dr. Ben said, pretending to pinch his fingers to read fortunes. 5 years ago, I calculated it for him. He has a heaven-defying physique. One shot can create multiple souls. Logically, he should have 4 kids by now. 4 kids? Chloe and the 4 little girls all looked at you at the same time. You couldn't help but sweat. Grabbing Dr. Ben's shoulder, you gritted your teeth. Stop talking nonsense! But Dr. Ben rubbed his chin seriously. I'm not talking nonsense! The first fortune I told when I came out of the mountains was for you. And it showed at the time that if you had 4 babies, they would be in the capital, surrounded by greenery. Saying that, he looked at Chloe, smiling a bit mischievously. White, you have a big business and lots of connections. Why don't you help look for them? 5 years ago. No, wait, 4 years ago. Were there any women who worked at KTVs who suddenly had kids? Just in case they are Jack's flesh and blood, we'd be doing a good deed. However, as soon as he said this, the 4 little girls instantly got unhappy. They stood there neatly with their arms crossed, puffed up with anger. So angry, so angry! Dr. Ben was good at reading the room. He immediately caught the little girls' reactions. Babies, why are you unhappy? Little Puff puffed out her cheeks, looking like an angry Jigglypuff. Uncle, we are Daddy's children! Little Grape also nodded. Daddy doesn't have kids with anyone else. He is our daddy. Dr. Ben didn't expect the 4 little girls to be quite so possessive, but it was really cute. He crouched down, reached out and rubbed the 4 little babies' heads. Okay. You are Jack's daughters. Just pretend Uncle never said what he just said, okay? We are Daddy's daughters, 100% genuine. Uncle is not allowed to use such a dismissive attitude, Little Puff stated, indicating that the babies were not easily placated. Dr. Ben smiled, looking up at you. These little girls of yours are really hard to deal with. Just as they were talking, Little Mochi's stomach suddenly growled. The usually somewhat aloof Little Mochi was instantly hit with embarrassment. Holding her little tummy, her cheeks flushed red. I embarrassed myself in front of Daddy. Will Daddy think I'm a glutton hard to raise? You also knew that after being busy for so long, the little babies must be hungry. So you threw a glance at Dr. Ben, quickly picked up Little Mochi and said, Uncle is hungry too. Little Mochi can eat with Uncle, okay? You said gently. Little Mochi obediently rested her head on your shoulder and said softly, Love Daddy the most. Daddy really understands girls' hearts. He knows exactly how to take care of girls. So the group decided to go eat first. Dr. Ben was very interested in the 4 little girls, so he forced his way in to eat with them. Halfway through, he even took many photos of the little girls and sent them to the Divine Doctor Sect's group chat. Over there, everyone in the Divine Doctor Sect was very interested in the 4 little girls in the photos. Eldest sister, did you see them? Bian Erjun burst excitedly into Bian Yimu's room holding her phone. At this moment, Bian Yimu happened to be looking at the photos of the 4 little girls. She indeed thought they were cute, but more than that, she thought of a fortune their master had read before. So she said to her junior sister, Do you remember Master talking about his romantic tribulation before? And the thing about 4 phoenix stars appearing by his side? Eldest sister! You don't think these 4 little babies are his phoenix stars, do you? How old are they? How is that possible? Bian Erjun didn't believe it, thinking her senior sister just wanted things to go well for you. However, Bian Yimu smiled, shaking her head as she said, Ambition is not measured by age. Besides, it's time for Jack to settle scores with those people. Hearing those people, Bian Erjun's expression also turned grave. All these years you had been holding back. They knew it. They also didn't want to see you suppress yourself anymore. Sister, let's descend the mountain. That day, inside the villa, a phone call came in. You had just answered when your father George's voice came through, still carrying that angry tone. You sneered. What? Mr. Zhang needs something? George hated your careless tone the most, as if you weren't close to him at all. Jack, tomorrow is my birthday. What are your plans? Oh, Mr. Zhang's birthday? Then just have your good son Frank throw you a banquet. What do you need me for? To burn paper money for you. Hearing this, George felt his blood boil. Rebellious son, how did I give birth to a son like you? Actually, I don't want to be Mr. Zhang's son either. I have no interest in Mr. Zhang's birthday banquet either, you said coldly, but George wouldn't let you off. You won't even come to your own father's birthday banquet. Then what the hell do you want to do? Saying this, George hung up the phone with a snap, but she thought about it carefully and realized this involved the company's shares, so you couldn't not go. Late at night, in Chloe's study, Leo White tiptoed in with the 4 little girls. 1 adult and 4 kids sat in a neat row, not even daring to breathe too loudly. Chloe raised her head slightly, gave them an indifferent glance, and said, It's so late and you're not sleeping, what is it? Little Puff pointed at Leo White and said seriously, Mommy, brother Leo wants to go steal manhole covers. Chloe's face was full of dark lines. She put down the documents in her hand, intertwined her fingers in front of her, and said lazily, 3 minutes. If you can't explain clearly, you can roll right out. See? I told you your mommy was super fierce. Little Puff pursed her lips and said, Mommy, tomorrow Daddy is going to the Zhang family's birthday banquet. Let's go back Daddy up. Chloe indifferently glanced at her anxious daughter, then said, No rush. What if they try to bully Daddy tomorrow? Mommy, you need to plan ahead for your husband. Little Puff was getting anxious. Yeah. If they bully your husband, they're bullying you. Little Grape started fanning the flames. Little Cherry added, Are the people of the White family outsiders they can just casually bully? We have to destroy them. Leo White frowned. Tsk. Each and every one of them is talking about fighting and killing. So scary. Thank goodness Auntie is calm and won't easily mess around with the little babies. But next Chloe said, 2 mercenary units are already stationed at the White family villa area. No need to worry. Leo White subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. So the real ruthless one is right here. Auntie, those 2 units aren't ordinary mercenaries, right? I bet if they made a move, the entire Zhang family wouldn't even have dust left, right? At 7 p.m., at the Zhang family's Purple Jade Manor, a servant outside said happily, "It seems Miss Mia has brought young Master Jack back." Hearing this, George glared fiercely at the servant, growling, "The Zhang family only has one young master, Frank. Others are not worthy of using that title." The servant was stunned, then lowered their head and said, "Yes, master. I was wrong." Susan, hearing that you had arrived, didn't care what her husband thought. Furious, she stormed outside. "I still have to kick this trash out." Seeing you, she pointed at you and cursed. "Who permitted you to come here tonight?" Susan questioned angrily. "Do you have no idea what level you're at? Facing your biological mother, you felt no emotional ripples whatsoever. Speak, Jack. I'm asking you a question." "Are you mute?" Susan said grumpily. "But you said expressionlessly, 'Mr. Zhang invited me here.' Impossible. Your dad wishes you were dead. Why would he let you in?" Susan refused to believe it. In her eyes, you were just thick-skinned and forcing your way in. So she didn't say much more, turning to the bodyguards. "What are you standing there for? Hurry up and throw this piece of trash out!" Right at this moment, a voice rang out to stop them. "Jack is my grandson. He came to attend the Jiang family's banquet. Why is that not allowed?" It was Elder Jiang. Once he appeared, Susan didn't dare act out anymore. Looking at the old man whose eyes were full of nothing but you felt a bit emotional. Supporting his arm, you said, "Grandpa, I made you worry. I'm sorry. It's Grandpa's fault. All these years, Grandpa's health has been poor and I couldn't stand up for you in the Zhang family. But don't be afraid this time. Grandpa will announce your status as the heir, making you the true young master of the Zhang family." Meanwhile, inside the extended Lincoln, Little Puff tilted her head to look at Chloe. "Mommy, didn't you say you were working overtime today and didn't need to worry about Daddy's side? Why couldn't you control yourself and came over anyway?" Chloe's expression remained indifferent and she glanced at Leo White driving in the front. "Leo said he wanted to eat cake, so I brought you guys here." Leo White blinked, pointing innocently at his own face. "You had just been brought in by the old man, and Elder Jiang started continuously introducing you to eldest daughters of various prominent families. And right at this moment, the banquet hall doors opened. Walking in front, Little Puff's gaze quickly swept the room, landing precisely on your hand, holding the hand of the Sisai family's eldest daughter, Sylvia. The little Lolita suddenly couldn't walk anymore. She clutched her chest, looking back pitifully, looking up at her mommy. "Mommy, what do? I have sour poisoning." "What sour poisoning?" Leo White in the back didn't react in time. Little Puff blinked, pointed in your direction, and said gloomily, "There's a girl who looks very aloof. She's holding Daddy's hand. Even though Daddy's hand looks very nice to hold." Little Grape's eyes were already turning red. "But that belongs to our mommy too." Little Cherry pinched her fingers to calculate, and said seriously, "Mommy, today Daddy has a peach blossom tribulation, romantic entanglement. You are in danger!" Little Mochi looked at them, but shook her head instead, not looking worried at all. "What's there to be afraid of? Daddy and Mommy are legal. No matter how pretty that auntie is, without Mommy's permission, she can only be a concubine." Cough! 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 Leo White almost choked to death on his own saliva. Next, Little Mochi said very seriously, "Of course Daddy can't do it himself, but if those aunties don't behave, I can only treat them like concubines and deal with them. Ancient books record the buying and selling of concubines. When guests come, they can be used to entertain guests too. Daddy is busy with work, so of course he doesn't have time to deal with these aunties who want to be his concubines. But I have less homework and lots of time. I can help Daddy sell his concubines." Leo White's mouth twitched. No, why does he feel like Little Mochi is actually the most devious one here? Unlike the little girls, Chloe looked calm on the surface, but her eyes were already a frozen tundra. She reminded Leo White in a cold tone, "Announce yourself." Leo White swallowed hard and stepped onto the red carpet. Instantly, a few wealthy men near the door recognized him. "Isn't this young Master Leo? Your family really has face this time. Even young Master Leo of the White family came. Not to mention, the person next to him is... Why does she look familiar too?" As they talked, they attracted everyone's attention, especially Frank, who instantly felt he had so much face today. The White family actually came. From now on, when he went out, he could brag to others that he had the White family backing him. George also snapped back to reality, grabbed Frank's arm and quickly asked, "Frank, are the people from the White family here for you?" Frank scratched his head, smiling. "I don't know about that either. You had just let go of Sylvia's hand when you saw Leo White walking straight towards you." Frank, however, adjusted his collar at this moment, walking towards Leo White in what he thought was a poised manner. "Long time no see, Leo." He extended his hand, holding it mid-air. Smack! Leo White slapped his hand away in disgust, touching his earring with a look of revulsion. "Do you have no situational awareness at all? Don't you know good dogs don't block the way? I hate people like you the most." At this moment, Frank felt it wasn't his hand that hurt, but his face. He looked at Leo White in disbelief. "Leo, what is this? What Leo? Is my name something you can call? So annoying!" Leo White shook his head. then completely ignored Frank's colorfully changing expression and walked straight up to you. Under everyone's watchful eyes, he hugged you, saying happily, Sorry, Idol. I was supposed to come to your family banquet alone, but my auntie's car broke down, and it just so happened the 4 little babies were hungry, so I brought them along. You won't mind that I brought so many people without telling you, right?" After speaking, he lowered his voice and used a volume only the 2 of you could hear to add, "Auntie was worried you'd get bullied, so she brought us here to back you up. Play along, okay?" Elder Jiang recovered from his shock and asked, "Young Master Leo, you and my Jack are good friends?" Leo White glanced sideways at the surrounding people and deliberately dragged out his words, saying, "Of course that's impossible." Hearing the long pause after that sentence, George felt a stroke of luck and glared at you, then said, "See, young Master Leo doesn't even admit you're his friend. You're just embarrassing yourself here." Leo White snorted coldly, threw his arm around your shoulder, and smiled at Elder Jiang. "Of course that's impossible. Jack is my idol." Hearing this, Elder Jiang truly breathed a sigh of relief. He turned back to look at George and snorted coldly. "This is your son. You don't believe in his abilities, and you put him down in front of so many people." George also didn't expect Leo White to drag out his sentence like that. He looked at you with sharp eyes, not offering any praise but opening his mouth to criticize. "You really are something. You kept it hidden from us. Are you just trying to live a good life all by yourself? How can you be so selfish?" The other people around also recovered from their shock, standing behind George, using the moral high ground to blame you. "Yeah, you kept secrets even from your own dad. That's too selfish." You laughed out of anger. Just as you were about to curse out these rich hypocrites and George, the 4 little girls suddenly walked over. They blinked their big eyes with innocent, harmless expressions on their faces. Little Puff spoke first to George. "Old Grandpa, today is your birthday, right?" Seeing that Little Puff was from the White family, George smiled sycophantically, curving his eyes. "Yes, it is, little baby. How are you so cute? Are you here to wish Grandpa a happy birthday?" But Little Puff stroked her chin, making a thoughtful expression, then said adorably, "I just wanted to tell old Grandpa. I know a really, really old Grandpa. He lived to be over 120 years old. He looks even younger than you, old Grandpa. Old Grandpa, do you want to know what his secret recipe is?" George thought this child looked innocent and naive, and surely wouldn't say anything weird. So he crouched down, asking with a benevolent smile, "Baby, tell Grandpa, what's the secret recipe?" Little Puff said in a milky voice, "His secret is that when it rains, he doesn't randomly go outside." "Why not go outside?" Little Puff curved her eyes, suddenly smiling like a cute little fox. She said, "Because he'll get struck by lightning. He has no brain, just like you, old Grandpa. He has a bad heart and always bullies his own son. So he's afraid of karma, afraid of getting hit by a car when he goes out, afraid of getting struck by lightning when it rains, afraid of choking on water when he drinks. So he had to buy himself a big turtle shell and hide inside it. That way he can live a long life." George frowned. "Wait, why does it sound like she's cursing me?" Of course, after Little Puff finished, Little Cherry stepped forward. She seriously pinched her fingers to calculate, then said to George, "Old Grandpa, I've calculated your fortune for you. Your intentions are wicked. In the future your mouth and eyes will be crooked, and you'll be wearing a huge green hat. Cuckolded. If you want to turn your luck around, I can help you. Considering your blood relation to Uncle Jack, I won't charge you money, and I'll give you 2 portions at once." George's chest was already heaving with anger from Little Puff. Now seeing Little Cherry, he was even angrier. He immediately refused. "No need, no need. At my age I don't need gifts from a child like you. If you refuse a gift from a child, you'll get styes in your eyes and be struck by 5 bolts of lightning." When Little Cherry spoke, her eyes curved like crescent moons. Just as George was thinking of how to reject Little Cherry, more than a dozen bodyguards walked in through the door. The bodyguards were holding several large boxes. George narrowed his eyes. You looked down at Little Cherry. Little Cherry flashed you a brilliant heart sign, blinked, and directed cutely, "Hurry up! 1 portion for this old grandpa, 1 portion for that uncle, and 1 portion for this old grandma." Hearing this, the bodyguards quickly followed Little Cherry's directions, placing the 3 boxes in front of George, Frank, and Susan respectively. Then they put on black gloves and very carefully opened the boxes. Everyone was originally curious about what was inside, but when they clearly saw what it was, they were all dumbfounded. Those who were on good terms with George and the others now had complicated expressions, and those who wanted to see them make a joke of themselves were trying hard to hold back their laughter, trying not to burst out laughing. After observing their reactions, Little Cherry said to George, "My sister already said it. People like you need a turtle shell, so you won't get struck by lightning when you go out, and so you can live a long life like a turtle bastard. So we prepared 3 turtle shells for the 3 of you who look most like turtles." After Little Cherry finished, Little Puff walked over. Blinking her starry eyes, she asked obediently, "Old Grandpa, you wouldn't think the gifts are too cheap and reject us, right? If you reject them, I will have no choice but to." George's face alternated between green and purple, as colorful as a painter's palette. He never expected that not only would he be cursed by 2 little girls, but they would actually present him with a set of turtle shells. not only cursing him, but calling him a turtle bastard. Is there any other way to bully someone like this? What kind of family values does the White family have to raise kids like this? George felt a bit wronged thinking about it, but he couldn't say anything now. He glanced around, seeing those people who were only friendly on the surface trying to hold back their laughter. He knew he could only swallow his broken teeth. My daughters are a bit mischievous. At this moment, Chloe stepped forward. Seeing her daughters had disgusted George enough, she came over to wrap things up. They were just joking with you earlier, Mr. Jiang. If you mind, Mr. Jiang, you must speak up. I won't discipline my daughters anyway, so don't hold it in until you choke to death. However, tomorrow was the birthday of your biased father. The Jiang family, who always wanted to slap your face in public, would never miss this opportunity to make you look like a fool. As the only true bloodline of the Jiang family, you became the key invitee. But how could the 4 little demon bosses who had spoiled you to the top of the food chain let you walk into the tiger's den alone? At this moment, Little Puff suddenly became anxious. What if they try to bully Daddy tomorrow? Mommy, you need to plan ahead for your husband. Yeah, if they bully your husband, they're bullying you. Little Grape also started fanning the flames. Little Cherry added, are the people of our family outsiders they can just casually bully? We have to destroy them. Leo White looked surprised. Each and every one of them is talking about fighting and killing. So scary. Thank goodness Auntie is calm. But Chloe's next words almost sent him to heaven. 2 mercenary units are already stationed outside our gate, so no need to worry. So the real ruthless one is right here. The next day, you brought Mia and a gift to the banquet hall. Little did you know that this gift was a landmine planted by Frank. In the eyes of this father, you were a stain on his life. Just as murderous intent flickered in George's eyes, you walked in with Mia. As soon as Mother Jiang Susan saw you, she got furious. Jack is not my son. I don't have such an embarrassing son. I only have one son, and that's Frank. However, Frank kept putting on an act to smooth things over. He said in a very troubled tone, but Mom, he's already outside. We can't just chase him away and waste his good intentions, right? But Susan didn't want you coming in and embarrassing her, so she ignored what her husband thought. Furious, she wanted to drive you out. At this moment, Frank was very smug internally, thinking you were going to be in for it today. And right at that moment, Tucson stormed aggressively in front of you. Jack, who permitted you to come here tonight? Speak, are you mute? Susan snapped. But you said expressionlessly, Mr. Jiang invited me here. Susan expressed disbelief, so she turned to the bodyguards. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and throw this piece of trash out. The men in black immediately surrounded you. Just then, an old man shouted to stop them. You are my grandson. He came to attend my family's banquet. Why is that not allowed? It was Elder Jiang, wearing a tang suit and leaning on a cane, looking robust. Seeing the old man, Susan didn't dare speak. Jack, come inside with Grandpa. Looking at the old man whose eyes were full of nothing but you, your heart felt warm. Grandpa, I made you worry. I'm sorry. It's Grandpa's fault. All these years, Grandpa's health has been poor, and I couldn't stand up for you in the Jiang family. Elder Jiang said, coughing twice. Then he shot a dark look at Susan and said, but don't be afraid this time. Grandpa will announce your status as the heir, making you the true young master of the Jiang family. These words gave Susan a huge shock. Meanwhile, inside the extended Lincoln, Little Puff tilted her head to look at Chloe. Mommy, didn't you say you were working overtime today and didn't need to worry about Daddy's side? Why couldn't you control yourself and came over anyway? Chloe's expression remained indifferent as she glanced at Leo White driving in the front. Leo said he wanted to eat cake, so I brought you guys here. Leo White had no choice but to take the blame. However, Frank had also figured out Grandpa's intentions now. On the surface, he wore a harmless smile, but inside he was gnashing his teeth with hatred. Damn that old man Jiang. Still thinking about Jack, but it didn't matter. He had plenty of ways to destroy you. Mom, actually there's a way to handle this. Frank looked at the 2 elders, speaking calmly. Hearing this, George quickly asked, what way? It's just a bit unethical. So Frank laid out a plan in front of your parents. Susan was still a bit hesitant. Isn't it not very good? What's not good about it? I think you're just being too soft-hearted as a woman, George snorted coldly, then said to Frank, Frank, go ahead and do it. Dad will back you up. Understood, Frank nodded. Then they watched as Frank took a glass of wine to the lounge. He said to a waiter, later when the gifts are being opened, give this spiked glass to Jack, understand? Yes. The waiter nodded. After taking Frank's money, the 2 walked out. They thought there was no one in this lounge, but behind the folding screen in the lounge, a girl looking like a celestial fairy fiddled with the prayer beads in her hand. The girl came before the old man. Hello, Grandpa. I'm Sylvia. It's been 5 years. You haven't forgotten me, right? Elder Jiang smiled. How could Grandpa forget a child as beautiful and well-behaved as Sylvia? Saying that, he quickly patted your shoulder, whispering to him, Jack, this is your Grandpa Sai's granddaughter, the most treasured little princess of the Sai family, Sylvia. I thought she wasn't going to come. Go say hello. The girl is 5 years younger than you, still a very pure girl. You gentlemanly looked at Sylvia. Hello, Sylvia. Sylvia smiled faintly, held your hand, and suddenly leaned close to you, whispering, Don't worry, I mean no harm, because you mean something different to me. And right at this moment, the banquet hall doors opened. Walking in front, Little Puff Gaze quickly swept the room. landing precisely on your hand holding Sylvia's hand. The little Lolita suddenly couldn't walk anymore. She clutched her chest, looking back pitifully, looking up at her mommy. "Mommy, what do I do? I have sour poisoning!" "What's sour poisoning?" Leo White in the back didn't react in time. Little Puff blinked, pointed in your direction and said gloomily, "There's a girl who looks very aloof. She's holding Daddy's hand." Even though Daddy's hand looks very nice to hold, Little Grape's eyes were already turning red. "But that belongs to our mommy too." Little Cherry pinched her fingers to calculate and said seriously, "Mommy, today Daddy has a peach blossom tribulation, romantic entanglement. You are in danger." Little Mochi looked at them, but shook her head instead, not looking worried at all. "What's there to be afraid of? Daddy and Mommy are legal. No matter how pretty that auntie is, without Mommy's permission, she can only be a concubine." Cough, cough, cough. Leo White almost choked to death on his own saliva. "No, Mochi baby, are you saying your daddy can have concubines? Be careful or you'll get spanked." "Next," Little Mochi said very seriously, "Of course Daddy can't do it himself, but if those aunties don't behave, I can only treat them like concubines and deal with them. Ancient books record the buying and selling of concubines. When guests come, they can be used to entertain guests too. Daddy is busy with work, so of course he doesn't have time to deal with these aunties who want to be his concubines. But I have less homework and lots of time. I can help Daddy sell his concubines." Leo White? No, why does he feel like Little Mochi is actually the most devious one here? Sure enough, the sesame-filled mochi is soft and white on the outside, but all black on the inside. Her sisters might just want to chase away the peach blossoms, but she had already made a business plan to sell them, silently lighting a candle for those girls who wanted to steal his uncle-in-law. Unlike the little girls, Chloe looked calm on the surface, but her eyes were already a frozen tundra. She reminded Leo White in a cold tone, "Announce yourself." Leo White subconsciously rubbed his arms. Catching a glimpse of his auntie from the corner of his eye, he had the illusion he was about to ascend to heaven right then and there. He swallowed hard and finally said, "Auntie, don't worry." They saw Leo White step onto the red carpet first. Originally looking like a goofball, he suddenly became completely serious. George also snapped back to reality, grabbed Frank's arm, and quickly asked, "Frank, are the people from the White family here for you?" Frank scratched his head, smiling. "I don't know about that either." Susan had already heard from several ladyists that Chloe was a single mother but incredibly beautiful. She looked at Frank, thought carefully, and then told the father and son, "I bet Chloe is here for our Frank. Frank is handsome and capable. Chloe has 4 daughters, so it's hard for her to marry. She got devious ideas, wanting our Frank to marry into the White family. Chloe being my daughter-in-law is not impossible, but having my Frank marry in, I disagree somewhat." Only Frank was thinking, if Chloe agreed, marrying into the White family wouldn't be impossible for him. After all, if he married into the White family, he could become the head of the White family. Wasn't that way better than taking over the Jiang family? You definitely didn't expect Chloe and the little girls to all show up today. You had just let go of Sylvia's hand when you saw Leo White walking straight towards you. "Frank, what are you standing there for? This is your future brother-in-law. Hurry and go say hello," George said, pushing Frank towards Leo White. Many people's eyes in the banquet hall turned their way. Frank felt this was his highlight moment. He definitely couldn't miss it. So he adjusted his diamond cufflinks, walking towards Leo White in what he thought was a poised manner. "Long time no see, Leo." He extended his hand, holding it midair. Smack! Leo White slapped his hand away in disgust, touching his ear stud with a look of revulsion. "Do you have no situational awareness at all? Don't you know good dogs don't block the way? I hate people like you the most." At this moment, Frank felt it wasn't his hand that hurt, but his face. He looked at Leo White in disbelief. "Leo, what is this? What Leo? Is my name something you can call? So annoying." Leo White shook his head, then walked straight up to you. Under everyone's watchful eyes, he hugged you, saying happily, "Sorry, idol. I was supposed to come to your family banquet alone, but my auntie's car broke down, and it just so happened the 4 little babies were hungry, so I brought them along. You won't mind that I brought so many people without telling you, right?" After speaking, he lowered his voice and used a volume only the 2 of you could hear to add, "Auntie was worried you'd get bullied, so she brought us here to back you up. Play along, okay?" You had just recovered from the shock when you heard Leo White snort coldly, throw his arm around your shoulder, and smile at Elder Jiang. "He's my idol. He saved my legs. Our whole family is grateful to him. If it weren't for your future uncle-in-law, my legs would have been broken by my auntie and the others so many times. Of course he is my benefactor." Elder Jiang had been a bit worried earlier that you and Leo White weren't friends, but hearing this now, he truly breathed a sigh of relief. He turned to look at his son, his face instantly darkening, snorting coldly. "This is your son. You don't believe in his abilities, and you put him down in front of so many people. You are truly foolish." George also didn't expect you to have such a good relationship with the White family, and yet you pretended to know nothing in front of them. He must be suffering from 8 lifetimes of bad luck to have a son like this. George looked at you with sharp eyes. Not offering any praise, he opened his mouth to criticize. "You really are something. You kept secrets even from us. Do you even consider us a family? Are you just trying to live a good life all by yourself, watching your family work hard? How can you be so selfish? And you call yourself a son of the Jiang family. You don't think about the Jiang family at all in anything you do. You laughed out of anger. Good. Very good. Moral kidnapping, is it? You really think you can just guilt trip people? But just as you were about to fire back, the four little girls suddenly walked over. They blinked their big eyes with innocent, harmless expressions on their faces. Little Puff spoke first to George. Old Grandpa, today is your birthday, right? Seeing that Little Puff was from the White family, George smiled sycophantically, curving his eyes. Yes, it is, little baby. How are you so cute? Are you here to wish Grandpa happy birthday? But Little Puff stroked her chin, making a thoughtful expression, then said adorably, I just wanted to tell old Grandpa I know a really old Grandpa. He lived to be over 120 years old. He looks even younger than you, old Grandpa. Old Grandpa, do you want to know what his secret recipe is? George thought this child looked innocent and naive, and surely wouldn't say anything weird. So he crouched down, asking with a benevolent smile, Baby, tell Grandpa, what's the secret recipe? Little Puff said in a milky voice. His secret is that when it rains, he doesn't randomly go outside. Why not go outside? Even Susan nearby found it strange. Does avoiding the rain make you live longer? Little Puff curved her eyes, suddenly smiling like a cute little fox. She said, because he'll get struck by lightning. He has no brain just like you, old Grandpa. He has a bad heart and always bullies his own son. So he's afraid of karma, afraid of getting hit by a car when he goes out, afraid of getting struck by lightning when it rains, afraid of choking on water when he drinks. So he had to buy himself a big turtle shell and hide inside it. That way he can live a long life. George, wait, why does it sound like she's cursing me? Susan, isn't this cursing her husband? The surrounding crowd. They were genuinely waiting for the little Lolita to drop some earth-shattering longevity secret. But hearing it to the end, wasn't every single sentence after that a curse on George? This kid is not simple. To be able to curse someone in such a roundabout, beautiful way at such a young age, and still leave them unable to lose their temper. Of course, after Little Puff finished, Little Cherry stepped forward. She seriously pinched her fingers to calculate, then said to George, Old Grandpa, I've calculated your fortune for you. Your intentions are wicked. In the future, your mouth and eyes will be crooked, and you'll be wearing a huge green hat. If you want to turn your luck around, I can help you. Considering your blood relation to Uncle Jack, I won't charge you money, and I'll give you 2 portions at once, the crowd gasped. Why does it feel like this one is the truly devious one? George's chest was already heaving with anger from Little Puff. Now seeing Little Cherry, he was even angrier. He immediately refused. No need, no need. At my age, I don't need gifts from a child like you. If you refuse a gift from a child, you'll get styes in your eyes and be struck by 5 bolts of lightning. When Little Cherry spoke, her eyes curved like crescent moons. She clearly looked so well-behaved and soft, but everyone heard a sense of domineering force. Of course, everyone was even more terrified to imagine those curses she mentioned next. A few wealthy men who were on good terms with George could only look at him sympathetically, patting his shoulder. Being hit with children's honest words on your birthday, you just have to tough it out. George actually didn't want to tough it out, but Chloe was standing right there without saying a word, her eyes frighteningly cold. He didn't dare provoke her. Just as his eyes darted around, thinking of how to reject Little Cherry, more than a dozen bodyguards walked in through the door. The bodyguards were holding several large boxes. You looked down at Little Cherry. Little Cherry flashed you a brilliant heart sign. Uncle, this is the gift I prepared. Too bad there isn't one for you. Seeing the stars sparkling in the little Lolita's eyes, you seemed to understand something. You smiled and said, It's okay, Uncle doesn't need it. Seeing your reaction, George couldn't help but roll his eyes at you again, snorting coldly. Well, you'd need to have the ability to ask your own kids for gifts first. Little Cherry blinked. She didn't argue with George. She just clapped her hands and directed cutely, Hurry up! 1 portion for this old grandpa, 1 portion for that uncle, and 1 portion for this old grandma. Hearing this, the bodyguards quickly followed Little Cherry's directions, placing the 3 boxes in front of George, Frank, and Susan respectively. Then they put on black gloves and very carefully opened the boxes. Everyone was originally curious about what was inside, but when they clearly saw what it was, they were instantly dumbfounded, and those who wanted to see them make a joke of themselves were now trying hard to hold back their laughter. After observing their reactions, Little Cherry said to George, My sister already said it. People like you need a turtle shell, so you won't get struck by lightning when you go out, and so you can live a long life like a turtle bastard. So we prepared 3 turtle shells for the 3 of you who look most like turtles. After Little Cherry finished, Little Puff walked over. Blinking her starry eyes, she asked obediently, Old Grandpa, you wouldn't think the gifts are too cheap and reject us, right? If you reject them, I will have no choice but to. George's face alternated between green and purple, as colorful as a painter's palette. At this moment, Chloe stepped forward and said, My daughters are a bit mischievous. They were just joking with Mr. Jiang earlier. If Mr. Jiang minds, you must speak up. I won't discipline my daughters anyway, so don't hold it in until you choke to death. George felt his chest tighten even more. You're just going to watch your daughters bully people like this. With things at this point, George obviously had no face left to save. It was Elder Zhang who thought about it and said, "This gift is quite valuable. Ms. White, young Master White, your presence here today is truly our honor. Why don't you go over there and have something to eat first? We'll cut the cake in a bit." Leo White wagged his tail and smiled sycophantically. "Idol, I'll listen to you. Whatever you tell me to do, I'll do it." Elder Jiang didn't want the banquet to get ugly after all. He whispered to you, "Jack, there are a lot of people. For the sake of the family's face, just tell them to stop causing trouble for now." However, Chloe spoke with a cold gaze. Indeed, some things should be done for the sake of the family's face. But it shouldn't be Mr. Jack making concessions. Instead, it should be Mr. Jiang apologizing to Jack. "Apologize for what?" George exploded. "What kind of father apologizes to his son? You emotionally blackmailed him," Chloe said, unobtrusively stepping to your side. "As far as I know, even though Jack's surname is Jiang, he has never eaten a single meal provided by your Jiang family. If he helps you now, it's a favor. He doesn't, it's his right. So for you to accuse him in front of so many people and call him selfish is wrong."
"You and them should all apologize to him."
George froze. He suddenly didn't know how to rebut Chloe. Chloe added, "My daughters are still in kindergarten. Right now, they are like blank slates. You set a bad example in front of them, so you must." At this, some people in the crowd began speaking sycophantically. "Yeah, we didn't know the truth earlier and misunderstood you. We are really sorry. You don't stoop to Uncle Zhang's level. Next time, Uncle will treat you to a meal." Seeing that his former good friends were now all bowing their heads to Chloe, George's feelings were even more mixed. He looked at Frank, originally hoping Frank would help him. He didn't expect this good son to whisper in his ear, "It's just apologizing to Jack. Just say one sentence. I need to leave a good impression on Chloe right now. You have to help me. As long as things work out with Chloe and me, you'll have plenty of chances to take revenge for today." George was still a bit conflicted, but Frank couldn't wait. Taking advantage of the crowd not paying attention, he pressed down on George's shoulder and forced him to bow to you. Then he smiled and said to you, "Look, Jack, father has apologized. Can our banquet continue now?" Frank didn't give George a chance to say anything else. He immediately turned to Chloe with his most gentlemanly posture. "Ms. White, did you see our sincerity? Why don't I invite you?" Before he could finish his sentence, he was shoved aside by Leo White. Leo White looked at Chloe like an eager puppy, smiling and saying, "Auntie, the environment over there is nice. Let's take Elder Zhang over there to sit." Chloe looked at you. Her icy gaze completely melted when she saw you. "Jack, does that sound okay?" You felt a warmth in your heart from her gaze. "Of course." Then Frank and the other two were completely ignored. Here, Chloe and the others had just sat down with you at a round table. A few girls took the opportunity to lean closer to your side. They completely failed to notice the murderous intent in the corner of Chloe's eyes. Instead, they shyly played with their hair or did other things to attract your attention. "Brother Jack, I heard earlier that you play video games. I want to learn how to play too. Could you help me?" After one girl spoke, Little Puff handed her a business card. "Auntie, this is a professional game boosting service. As long as you pay, they can get you to any rank." The woman was stunned. "No, I actually..." Little Puff was clearly smiling, but her tone was full of pressure. "Auntie, you need a professional booster." The woman instantly felt a chill run through her entire body. She opened her mouth, only to find Little Puff's eyes were like scalpels, very cold, as if they were going to dissect her piece by piece. She instantly chickened out, took the business card, smiled apologetically, and backed away a few steps. Next, Sylvia walked over, sitting gracefully and elegantly beside you. She calmly nodded slightly to Chloe. "Nice to meet you. I am Sylvia." A dark glint flashed in Chloe's eyes as she nodded. Then, she ultimately grabbed your hand, interlocking her fingers with yours. At the moment of contact, ripples inexplicably surged in your heart. This move was truly too sudden for you. You felt a ball of fire whoosh to life inside you. Terrified that someone might notice something wrong, you immediately picked up the ice water nearby with your free hand, gulping it down in an attempt to suppress the fire in your heart. However, the culprit, Chloe, looked completely indifferent. It was as if nothing had happened at all, but her fingers, like a feather, were lightly tracing the palm of your hand. Because of this, you weren't paying attention while drinking, and actually ended up choking yourself. "Cough! Cough! Cough!" Seeing this, Chloe was just about to get you a glass of warm water when she saw another fair, slender hand patting your back. The other party's movements were very gentle and light. "Brother Jack, slow down." Sylvia, with her usually cold demeanor, suddenly calling you brother was quite the contrast. You didn't react for a moment, and Sylvia calmly walked over and brought a glass of warm water. "Drink some warm water. It's better than ice water." The little girls, who had already crushed their small glass cups, were now even more unhappy, especially little Mochi. At this moment, she felt like the daddy she had worked so hard to find was about to be snatched away, so she jumped out of her chair, pitter-pattered over, and stood between you and Sylvia. Then, with a very curious expression, she asked, "Auntie, do you have a brother?" Sylvia replied very gently, "I do. Auntie has 3 older brothers. Auntie has her own brothers. Then why isn't Auntie with her own brothers and has to find Uncle Jack?" "Uncle Jack is not your brother, and won't be your brother either." Saying this, little Mocha looked back at her mommy. Mommy, isn't that right? We can't just randomly acknowledge people as our brothers. We can't randomly steal other people's brothers, right? Chloe's face showed no major emotional ripples, but the corners of her lips were tilted upward. Sylvia understood immediately. She generously said, "The baby is right. I indeed shouldn't randomly call people brother." She looked at you and extended one of her hands. Jack, from now on, you can't treat me like a little sister anymore. You need to treat me as a mature woman. You raised an eyebrow, suddenly understanding Sylvia's meaning. At this moment, Chloe's hand didn't let go. In fact, she gripped even tighter. This feeling of being tightly held gave you an illusion, as if Chloe would permanently confine you to her side at any moment. Over there, Frank saw from a distance that the Tao woman had their eyes entirely on you. He instantly got upset. He gritted his teeth and said, "Jack is truly a bastard, intentionally seducing the woman who belongs to me." Then he thought of the trap he had prepared for you. He said to the crowd, "Everyone, next it's time to open my dad's gifts. Is everyone curious about what my dad received for his birthday this time? Oh man, to be honest, I'm feeling really nervous. I'm actually afraid Jack's gift will be too good and slap my face hard. Speaking of which, it's quite a coincidence. Didn't Jack and I both prepare paintings? And there just happened to be Chinese painting masters in this manner. I actually really wanted to invite them over for some guidance." Assistant Peter immediately stepped forward, smiling and saying, "Young Master Frank, those masters heard we were hosting a birthday banquet, and they are already waiting outside." And right at this moment, the doors opened. Frank originally told his assistant to invite a few directors from the Chinese Painting Association, but now looking at them, even Frank himself was stunned. Someone in the crowd recognized the arrivals and screamed excitedly, "Oh my God, isn't that the #1 Chinese painting master in the country, Master Kong Wenshan? And those two, they are top-tier masters in the country." Hearing someone call out their names, everyone was astonished. The atmosphere instantly changed. As expected of Frank, he actually managed to invite such big shots. Listening to the discussions around him, Frank couldn't be prouder. He looked at his assistant Peter with admiration, mouthing a silent good job. But Peter was a bit confused. He didn't remember inviting such huge big shots. Wiping his sweat, Peter sycophantically led the three masters over. Frank smiled and greeted them. "Hello, three masters. Today we want to open the gifts for my father, and we'd like to ask you all to be our witnesses." The three masters nodded. Frank then looked at you. "Then, let's open them together." Without waiting for your answer, Frank opened your painting first. You gave him an indifferent glance, then opened the box in your hand as well. Seeing that the two paintings were different, Frank was somewhat surprised. He immediately looked at Assistant Peter, questioning him with his eyes about what happened, but Peter was completely lost too. The next second, however, Samyun pointed at the painting you brought and laughed loudly. "What's wrong with this painting? Why hasn't the ink on it even dried?" Others also started laughing. Hearing their words, Frank felt incredibly smug in his heart. He figured his assistant must have swapped the paintings at the last minute, deliberately getting one where the ink hadn't even dried yet. This way, it would slap your face even harder. So, Frank hypocritically explained to everyone. Maybe he grabbed the wrong one. "Everyone, please don't laugh at him just yet." Meanwhile, George stared at you with deep abhorrence. "Family misfortune! A true misfortune!" George kept sighing. "Not only do you bring people to my birthday banquet to cause trouble, but you also gift me this kind of trash. Get out! Get out right now!" You didn't know why the painting ended up like this either. "Restraining yourself," you said, Mr. Jiang, "I will give you an explanation regarding the painting." Susan gritted her teeth and asked, "An explanation? How are you going to explain? Can you turn this trash into something priceless?" Seeing everyone around saying the painting was cheap, and Susan going crazy again, Little Grape suddenly rushed over. She raised her chubby little fists and started hitting Susan. "Bad, bad, you are a bad old witch. You're not allowed to hit people. I hate it when you hit people." Susan was beaten so hard she was hopping mad. After Little Grape finished hitting her, she crossed her arms and with a very serious expression, said to the crowd, "Do you guys really think that painting is bad?" Everyone was stunned by her question. Looking at each other, they suddenly didn't dare speak. Little Grape reached out her little hands and said softly to you, "Up!" You quickly crouched down and picked her up. Now Little Grape was a little bit satisfied. She rubbed her little face against your face, then said to the crowd, "My mommy hired top-tier professional painting teachers for me, so I know a little bit about Chinese painting appraisal. The painting you guys say is bad is not a fake. This is the work of a contemporary master. Its auction price at international art exhibitions is at least 20 million. Susan thought Little Grape was just spouting nonsense. "Ha ha ha! What a joke!" She laughed so hard tears almost came out. Little Grape just snorted twice, pointed a finger at Kong Wenshan over there. "You, come here! Tell them if this painting is real or fake!" Kong Wenshan nodded, raising his foot to walk over. Seeing this, Frank grabbed his hand, using a voice only the two of them could hear to say, "Don't forget you took my money. You have to say that painting is fake, understand?" Kong Wenshan looked at Frank in astonishment, then shook off Frank's fingers and said, "No need for you to say more. I know what to do." He then walked straight toward the painting. Frank raised his eyebrows, deliberately flashing you a smile that said, I will definitely win today. Kong Wenshan walked over and looked at the painting in front of him. His finger lightly tapped on it and he sniffed the ink. Then, with a face full of shock, he turned back to look at the other two. This painting is… Kong Wenshan was so shocked that he couldn't even finish his sentence. Frank's assistant Peter breathed a sigh of relief. He smiled and said, Masters, even if it's a fake painting, it doesn't matter. You don't need to put yourselves in a difficult position. The people around started chattering and discussing even more. Seeing Little Grape was about to get angry, the relatively calm Little Puff came over and whispered, Grape, don't worry. They haven't said the painting is fake yet. What other people say isn't important. But sister, I'm so angry, so angry. Little Grape sniffled. Little Puff, using her sweetest tone, said, Don't be mad. Mommy has a good memory. She's already remembered all those people who said nasty things. When the weather gets cold, we'll play the bankruptcy game with them. Everyone was originally discussing your painting, but hearing this, everyone subconsciously clutched their chests. Frank just thought the little girls were playing around. He wasn't afraid at all. He smiled and asked the three masters, Is this painting just too fake, making things difficult for you? Kong Wenshan had already found Frank annoying earlier. Now seeing him buzzing around like a fly, he got even angrier. He snorted twice and said grumpily, How could it be a fake painting? This is a work by our teacher, the true master of painting, Master Ghost Crane. Let alone 20 million. Even if you offered him 100 million, he still might not paint for you live right then and there. Kong Wenshan's voice trembled with sheer reverence. His hands hovered over the canvas, afraid that even his breath might ruin the masterpiece. And this ink, it's fresh. The strokes, the spiritual energy embedded in the artwork. It was painted less than an hour ago. Kong Wenshan suddenly spun around, his eyes scanning the crowd with frantic excitement. Master Ghost Crane is here. He must be in this very room. The entire banquet hall fell into a deathly silence. Everyone's gaze slowly shifted from Kong Wenshan to the young man standing casually with his hands in his pockets. Frank's face twisted into an ugly grimace. Master Kong, you must be mistaken. Jack is just a failed stunt double. How could he possibly know Master Ghost Crane? He must have stolen it. Stolen? You let out a low, amused chuckle. Slowly, you reached into your inner jacket pocket and pulled out a small, intricately carved blood jade seal. You tossed it casually onto the table next to the painting. Kong Wenshan leaned in, his pupils shrinking to the size of pinholes. The Blood Dragon seal! The personal seal of Master Ghost Crane. He immediately bowed deeply toward you, a full 90 degrees. Kong Wenshan greets the Grandmaster! The crowd gasped, the sound echoing like a tidal wave. The failed extra, the outcast of the Jiang family, was the legendary Master Ghost Crane? Impossible! This is a trick! Susan shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at you. Frank, show them your painting! Show them what a real gift looks like! Desperate to salvage his pride, Frank hastily ordered Assistant Peter to unroll his painting. It was supposedly an antique masterpiece by a famous dynasty painter, but the moment it was unrolled, Kong Wenshan didn't even need to use his magnifying glass. He merely glanced at it and scoffed loudly. A modern, mass-produced print. You can even see the pixelation in the corner from the industrial printer. Kong Wenshan sneered with absolute disgust. You dare present this garbage to your father, while mocking the genuine masterpiece of Master Ghost Crane? Foolish! Frank stumbled backward, his face drained of all color. He fell hard onto the floor. No, I spent 10 million on this. You spent 10 million on a fake because you are a fake, Frank. A deep, authoritative voice boomed through the hall. Elder Jiang struck his cane heavily against the marble floor. He looked at George and Susan, his eyes filled with overwhelming disappointment. I have watched you two abuse and neglect my true grandson for years, favoring this incompetent fool, Elder Jiang declared, his voice echoing with absolute finality. Today I am making it official. Jack Jiang is the sole heir and the new head of the Jiang family. As for George, Susan, and Frank, you are stripped of all your shares and banished from the core family. Get out of my sight! Dad, you can't do this! George fell to his knees, finally realizing the catastrophic mistake he had made. He crawled toward you, reaching out. Jack, my son, I am your father. Please. You lost the right to call me your son 5 years ago, you said coldly, looking down at him without a single trace of pity. Security, escort them out. As the screaming and pleading trio were dragged out of the banquet hall like stray dogs, a collective sigh of relief washed over the room. The guests who had mocked you earlier were now shivering in the corners, terrified of both your newfound power and the backing of the White family. Amidst the shock, the grand doors of the banquet hall burst open once again. Dr. Ben sprinted in, completely ignoring the bewildered security guards. He was waving a white folder in the air, panting heavily. Bro, Jack, I couldn't wait! I rushed the lab! Dr. Ben yelled, skidding to a halt in front of you and Chloe. What are you talking about, old seven, you asked, raising an eyebrow. Dr. Ben grinned, a massive ear-to-ear smile. He pointed at the 4 little dumplings who were currently munching on macarons. 5 years ago, the Imperial Hotel, room 8808. Does that ring a bell? Your breath hitched. Your heart skipped a massive beat as you slowly turned to look at Chloe. Chloe's usual icy composure shattered completely. Her beautiful phoenix eyes widened in pure, unadulterated shock. Room 8808! You were the man? Chloe whispered, her voice trembling for the first time. And you were the woman, you replied. The pieces of the puzzle crashing together in your mind, the familiarity in her eyes, the unexplainable connection you felt with the babies, the timeline, it all made perfect sense. I ran a DNA test using the hair on your jacket and the baby's hair, Dr. Ben announced triumphantly to the whole room. 99.999% match. Jack, congratulations! You're the biological father of these 4 little monsters! The room erupted into whispers of utter disbelief, but you couldn't hear any of it. All you could see were the 4 little girls, their mouths shaped into perfect O's. Little Puff dropped her macaron. Her big starry eyes filled with tears as she looked from Chloe to you. Daddy, you are our real daddy? I am, you choked out, dropping to your knees and opening your arms. Daddy! The 4 little dumplings tackled you to the ground in a sobbing, laughing, chaotic pile of hugs. Little Grape buried her face in your neck, wailing happily. Woo woo woo, I knew it! I knew we didn't just pick up a random handsome guy, we picked up our real daddy! Little Cherry wiped her tears and puffed her chest. I calculated it. I told you Daddy was our lucky star. Little Mochi sniffled, glaring playfully at the surrounding crowd. See? He is our real daddy. Our parents are legally and biologically bound. All concubines can back off now. You laughed, tears stinging your own eyes as you held your daughters tightly. Then you looked up at Chloe. The untouchable demon boss of the Emperor Group, the woman who struck fear into the hearts of billionaires, was covering her mouth, silent tears streaming down her flawless cheeks. You stood up, holding Little Puff in one arm, and walked over to Chloe. Gently, you reached out and wiped a tear from her face. It seems we have 5 years of catching up to do, Ms. White. Chloe looked into your eyes. The ice entirely melted away, replaced by a profound, overwhelming warmth. She didn't say a word. Instead, under the stunned gazes of the entire capital's elite, she grabbed your collar and pulled you into a deep, passionate kiss. The crowd erupted into thunderous applause. Elder Jong laughed heartily, wiping tears of joy from his eyes. Leo White whistled loudly, while Dr. Ben snapped a picture for the group chat. When Chloe finally broke the kiss, she leaned her forehead against yours, a soft, breathtaking smile playing on her lips. You already have the title of Master Ghost Crane, the head of the Jiang family and the master of the Divine Doctor sect, but I think, you interrupted softly, pulling her and the babies into a tight embrace. My favorite titles are Daddy and your husband. Little Puff cheered loudly. Yay, Daddy and Mommy are finally getting married. Tomorrow we go to the civil registry. And as the 4 little cuties celebrated their ultimate victory, you knew that your life, once filled with betrayal and hardship, had finally become a beautiful, perfect masterpiece.